Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special slasherific episode of Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party.
It's stab and slash.
Bloody.
Stalking. And then I stab you with this.
Slice you.
It's R-rated.
Yes. Screaming.
And maybe even more.
Maybe even NC-17.
And parents will complain.
Yes.
And speaking of complaining, who are you, sir?
For once, you're right. I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
And for this episode, we have talked about the things that are involved in this episode in past episodes.
Yes, we have.
But not a dedicated episode just to this genre.
Not
No.
laser pinpoint
Right.
view
Specific.
of this topic.
Right.
And that topic is
What is this topic?
slasher movies.
Slasher movie! Slasher!
One of my favorite subgenres.
Blood.
Okay, that's
Wow.
that's
Wait,
fully
Yeah.
practical effects.
Wait, you didn't like that? I thought that was
No,
cool.
I loved it, Larry.
it's
I
great.
But
loved
you,
it.
but you know, we're
Scary.
I
talking
loved it, but Sean has something he'd like to say.
Yes, I do. Well, we were thinking, who can we possibly get to
And we
be
have been
a
thinking
guest?
about this
Yeah.
for years.
Because this is a topic.
Ages.
This is a topic I wanted to do for a long time, and we found the perfect guest. This gentleman we met at Monsterpalooza.
Yes, we did.
Monster
Yeah.
Palooza.
It was
People.
immediate bonding.
Immediate.
yes.
We are buddies.
And this
Kindred spirits.
Pace yourself.
I'm sorry.
and this gentleman is known as an authority on the slasher film genre.
Oh, I'll say.
and
expert.
this guy he's a writer, he is an actor, he's a former wrestler.
I like that.
Yeah, and he has written for the Best Horror Movies website. He's done articles for Watch Play Read online. He's done a YouTube channel show called The Horror Addicts.
The Horror Addicts.
He's been
Perfect.
he's been a panelist at the Seattle horror convention Crypticon,
a panelist.
and he's been in
Take
some
that, Larry Stroth.
No, I know.
and he's been in some horror productions too, like Tales from the Grave, Runaway Nightmare, and an upcoming Meathook Massacre, the final chapter.
Meathook Massacre.
What can't he do?
But most importantly, he has written 2 authoritative books on the slasher genre. First one is Slashed Dreams, The Ultimate Guide to Slasher Movies, and Slashed Dreams Part 2, The Nightmare Continues.
The nightmare continues.
Because mine do.
Yes.
Mine do. I don't just wake up and then it's
There was,
Right. It's just
Sean, there was,
I go right back into
there
it.
was just
Right.
so much information.
That's
he
right.
had to do another one.
That's right. And he is with us tonight. Please welcome Ronnie Angel.
Ronnie Angel.
Ronnie Angel.
Thank you.
How
Thank you
I
very
love
much.
him.
Man.
I know you've heard this joke.
I'm in awe.
Oh God, all the time, especially in the wrestling days. I would hear that on the road all the time.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Walk into the locker room and hear nothing but that.
It's a great name, though.
Yeah, it really is.
Thank you.
Now, is
Thank
that
you
your
very much.
given name?
Sure.
We'll leave it at that. Right.
Nicely done.
Ronnie, thanks for being with us tonight. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
it. I'm
No
so
problem.
excited
Yeah.
to have you
Yeah, we
here.
are. Yeah, this, like I said, this is a subject that we love, and so just off the bat, I want to ask. I mean, you're a little younger than the rest of us here. I think you're one generation before us, but what drew you to
two.
horror? Yeah, true. But what got you into horror? Like, how did you become a horror fan?
Ooh, that is an interesting one. I grew up in the 80s. I'm 35 now, actually.
All right.
Young whippersnapper.
Yep. And
What's it like to have working knees?
Okay.
not so much anymore.
Oh, you're a wrestler.
right.
All right, get back to the 80s now. We're in the 80s.
Oh yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, I would go to these little video stores with my parents, and I was always fascinated by the horror section.
Oh, yeah. They let you go into the horror section?
No, that was the thing. But I would kind of peek around the corner, and I would see these interesting, intricate box art, and
Like
just
the
these-
big box wizard videos.
It's like huge boxes.
some of the really gory cover art. You
Totally.
know? and I was just fascinated by it. And I remember I wasn't allowed to really watch stuff like that. And I actually remember that my mom was watching it when I was about 5 or 6.
The original miniseries.
The miniseries
original
on
one.
TV.
With Tim Curry.
Yes, and it had just started. And it was the scene with the little girl at the very beginning. I was supposed to be in bed. And I decided, this would be funny. I'm going to defy my mom. I'm going to hide behind the couch and watch this.
Oh, wow.
And no, as soon as I saw that clown, I was off screaming down the hallway.
Now, was that your first clown? Or
Yes.
wow. A normal clown will put you off clowns forever.
But that
one, oh my God.
Oh, God, yeah. But beyond that, though, when I really started to get into the horror movies was I was about 10, and we were living in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And there was a late-night horror host there.
Who?
His name was Count Cool Rider.
Wait, do we?
Nice.
Wait, what did he look like? Because we met at Monster Palooza a few years ago. We met a Vegas
horror host, yeah.
guy.
Cool Rider.
Wow.
Well, you see this guy on the History Channel all the time nowadays.
Oh, really? Like for like what? For like
He does a show
paranormal?
called Counting Cars.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he is like an expert that has been on Pawn Stars, been a lot of those shows.
Okay.
And back in the day, he was the big horror host in Vegas.
Wow. No. So now, what kind of stuff was he showing? Older films like Universal horror, or was it like?
No. Well, the thing about it was, again, I wasn't allowed to watch those, but I would wait until everybody was asleep,
Right.
And I would sneak downstairs and I would turn it on a really low volume, and it was movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh wow. Okay.
So now, wait a minute.
Halloween.
What was the first one? Do you remember the first one that you saw that you were like, oh my God, my life has changed forever? What was that first slasher or even horror movie? Aside from it, I mean.
Oh, The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, I think.
Part 2. Wow. Oh, wow. It's too bad I wasn't part 1.
Well, you get to see part 1 and part
That's
2.
true. That's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of
2
flashbacks
movies.
That's
in
true.
there.
That's true. Okay.
No, actually, it was Halloween. The original Halloween.
That's a perfect
way to
one.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
That was the one I'd heard so much about.
Perfect movie, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay, so that was your first one. Okay, so you're what, like 6 or something when you saw this one, or?
I was 10 at the time.
All right.
10 at the time,
you
yeah.
knew at this time. Okay, I like these movies.
I knew I wanted to search these out wherever I went.
Right.
And it's funny because what I tell people nowadays that they could get pretty much anything on Amazon or on demand.
Everything is so available.
Oh, yeah. And I would tell people that one of the big struggles back then was you had to go from store to store to store to find the right movie.
It's
Yes.
true.
Right. Yes,
it's
it is.
True. Ronnie, there were times when I would, you go and maybe the box is there and you go, but someone has it already. It's checked out already.
Yeah.
And you go,
Yeah.
well, when is it coming back? Well, we don't know because sometimes people hold on to it for a little bit. And
Yep. And it was funny because I could say, for example, that let's get into some of the more obscure ones. That
Please.
The movie store down the street from my house, they had a copy of Twice Dead and The Mutilator. But
The Mutilator.
But there was a video store down the road about a mile farther. They didn't have either of those, but they did have the Spookies.
Yeah, right. Those are obscure ones. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you really had to search high and low,
Right.
and then even then, there's a lot that you couldn't find back then.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'd have to do the old back pages of Fangoria and
Totally.
order them from a catalog.
A lot of these were independently produced, pretty low budget movies, and a lot of them I imagine didn't get video distribution all the time, or if they did, it might have been a really limited video distribution.
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of the shot on video ones, like Blood Cult, things like that. That when I was writing the first book, I didn't even know they existed, honestly.
Right. And those mom and pop stores back then too, they were always sporadic too. And like you said, they just got whatever inventory they could. It wasn't like Blockbuster, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure they weren't like, cinema connoisseurs.
Right.
No, let's face it. Look, if it was Blockbuster, they're going to have plenty copies of Raiders of the Lost Ark. But
Right,
something
right.
like the Spookies, it's like,
Right.
that's an obscure. Well, they got to get something for every store, so they're not going to get something like this.
Right.
So to find these obscure titles, it was tough.
I always found, and this is the truth, but I always found that if the video store had a decent porn section, normally the horror section was pretty good as well.
Yeah,
That is very accurate.
Right?
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
accurate.
totally.
Yes.
As a kid, you went to the porn
little
section?
seedy and a little bit like
Yeah.
sure.
Who didn't peek their head through that curtain?
Of course. I looked
Yeah.
over the fence.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Oh, well.
But even thing is though,
Don't like
even-
girls?
No, I like girls just fine.
Don't like sex with girls.
But
No,
even though like
All right.
the big franchises like Blockbuster, I would still kind of go through those with a fine tooth comb because sometimes they didn't
Yes,
know.
yeah.
Sometimes you would find some like just
right.
before dawn or something.
Yep.
You're like,
Oh, yeah.
at Blockbuster, they had no idea what the fuck it was.
Right.
You know, it's like you're an archaeologist. You're traveling everywhere you can
Yeah,
to
yeah,
find this stuff. You know, and
Yeah.
so I mean, like you said, it's so different now where everything at touch of a button is available. That wasn't the case. You had to work for it.
It's hard.
Exactly.
It's hard to explain to the kids these days.
Crazy kids.
Because the crazy kids
Those
today.
damn kids.
No, they have everything is at their fingertips today.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And the thing that really gets me too is on these Facebook memes is, oh, do you remember when Blockbuster used to be the place to be? And it's like, oh, you damn kids, you don't even know.
Right.
They ruined the mom and pop video stores.
I know they did. I know.
Well, we seniors actually had to go to a theater, if you can believe it.
Okay, all right, wait a minute.
Oh,
What?
that was back in the day.
yeah.
Although when we were like Halloween hit when I was 13. And,
Oh, nice.
And then the wave right after that.
Right.
Into the 80s.
No, yeah, early '80s.
When
Yeah.
you know,
So I'm guessing like the first time you masturbated was like to PJ Souls, right?
well,
We're
Close.
Come on, we're not here to talk about that. This is slashers. And,
Oh, and sex has no part of the slasher.
Right.
Oh no, none at
But
all.
it's true.
None
Like
at
I
all.
saw like Halloween, but even like movies like The Boogeyman or
Ooh, that's a good one.
Funeral Home. I saw in the
do like that,
theaters.
yeah.
a Silent
You know?
Scream.
Yeah,
you couldn't
yeah.
avoid.
Scream,
you
yeah.
could not avoid these movies. I mean, at our age at the time, if you wanted to go out, and this was before beta. You know, this is before you could rent movies.
Right.
Then that's what you did because that was all that there was.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was directed at our generation, basically.
It was a kind of a two-pronged thing because once Halloween hit, 78, by the time 1980 came, there was this floodgate, but it was also the time of home video. So in a year or two or less, those movies in the theater now were on video that you could rent. So it was like just this golden age. I mean, like looking at like the films that were released in 80 and 81 especially, and even 82, I mean, it's amazing how many slasher films were released in those years. All the classics. I mean, 80 was Just Before Dawn, New Year's Evil, Prom Night, Terror Train, Schizoid, Night School, Silent Scream, Mother's Day, and it goes on and on. It's
Maniac.
amazing, all in the same year.
Oh, yeah, it was a good
I
year.
mean, oh my God. it's
even
just
Dressed
like-
to Kill.
Yeah, Dressed to
Brian
Kill.
De Palma
Right.
did on it.
Okay, look, I want to ask a question here, okay? Because we've got the experts.
We've been having too much fun.
No. So we, you're Mr. Slasher. So
He's
I'm
Mr.
saying-
Slasher.
So in your well-educated mind, what would you say would be the first slasher film?
That is a good question.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
The way I see it, the first slasher film, and it goes in little waves. There's a lot of different things that kind of fed into making the slasher movie. And some of those was the Giallo.
Right.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Which is like
big
early
influence.
70s that started.
Yeah. The exploitation genre in the 70s, that was another big one.
Like Herschel, Gordon Lewis, that kind of thing, or
That was another thing I was
Yeah.
going to draw on is that was its own kind of separate thing in the 60s that it was like the splatter film.
Right.
Getting more extreme, gorier. And then the exploitation films were just ballsier.
Right.
You know, like I Spit on Your Grave and
Yes.
Last
Right.
House on the Left.
yeah.
I think all of this combined, and as far as the first slasher films would go, they were pseudo slashers before the big wave hit.
Right.
But I would say the first two would have been and they were released the same time. Psycho and Peeping Tom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
See, and,
Yeah.
okay, that was the next thing was going to be, because I
1960.
I wrote that down. I want to say, what is your definition of a slasher film? What makes a slasher film different from, let's say, like, I wouldn't put The Exorcist in the same category. You know what I mean?
no.
So what's
No.
so
Or Freaky Friday.
Okay, look. I'm regular Joe QT
Yeah,
film
that's what
goer.
he's regular Joe.
And
He's just everyday guy.
I'm regular.
Yeah.
Because you guys have seen a lot of slasher stuff. I've seen a bunch, but maybe not as much as you got. But for the regular Joe viewer guy, I mean, what would you say is the definition of a slasher film?
The definition of a slasher film, that would be basically your basic stock and slash type of movie. And the killer usually uses sharp weapons as a means of disposal.
I.e. slashing.
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
And many times they go after the younger crowd.
Uh-huh.
And
They got it coming.
yeah, those damn kids. Yeah, they always do.
And their sex.
Yeah, because I would say like the giallos, the Italian giallos are mostly adults usually in those. You know,
Yeah,
they usually weren't
yeah.
teenage casts in those.
You're
for the
right,
most
Sean.
part. They're
You're
most, and it
right.
was all psychological, sexual stuff, but not in the same way. There was very, giallos are very distinct in that way. Which kind of, in a way, I think started with Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I mean, Argento started the wave.
Well,
with
what
that.
about when was Bay of Blood, the Bava one?
Yeah, Bay of Blood was like early the 71, and actually Bird with the Crystal Plumage was a year before that.
Okay,
But
so
yeah,
all right.
but Bay of Blood is interesting because that
Friday the 13th.
that plays
right?
a lot like an American body count movie.
Oh yeah. That was another one I was going to talk about, and that was another one of the first. But before that, there was a Bava movie called Blood and Black Lace,
Yes.
Yes.
Blood and black
Yeah.
lace.
and I think that is one of the earliest definitions of a body count movie.
Yeah, that's almost like a perfect meld of slasher and giallo in a way. I mean, because it has a lot of giallo tropes to it, but it also feels kind of like a slasher
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
with its kind of like very high concept killings and the twists.
Getting back to Peeping Tom and Psycho. Now, the thing that always just vexes me when I think about those two movies is that you've got one movie, an American film, that becomes this gigantic hit,
It's hugely influential.
really influential. And I think the fact that it came from Alfred Hitchcock, who had already kind of established himself
Sure.
as a thriller
Yeah.
director,
Yeah.
helped. And then you've got Michael Powell.
Poor
and
guy.
Michael Powell, who did all these, I guess you'd call them kind of highbrow movies, Tales of Hoffman.
The Red Shoes, one of my
These
favorites.
beautiful movies.
Colors and
Colors and
Oh.
incredible colors and just the
direction is
yeah,
just
just
stylized
lyrical
beautiful.
films. And
And completely overlooked.
yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got Peeping Tom, and it just destroys his career.
And it's a great film, too.
And I would say, in a lot of ways, I almost prefer it a little bit more than Psycho because of how deep into the dark it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Matt, would you say, I mean, it's so tragic that it basically destroyed his career. Would you say it was kind of ahead of its time? I'm not sure the public
Yes.
was really
Well, especially in England.
well,
Yeah, yes.
yeah, I'm not sure the public was really ready
No,
for
and I think
that.
and I think the problem really was too is that this director who had been known for all these other type of films, it was like a left turn. They just couldn't handle the fact that it was this type of material coming from this director, and there's a seediness. There's
Yes.
there's a really perverse quality to that movie.
yes.
A little more taboo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that Psycho doesn't quite get to. Like, even with everything that goes on in Psycho, the Norman Bates character, you really feel sorry for him in a different way that you feel sorry for Carl Boehm.
Right. Right.
To me, it's so strange that you got these two movies the same year
Yeah, I know.
and just two violently different reactions.
Both British directors.
Yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean, since then, Peeping Tom has been recognized as a classic, but at the time, no, you're right. It was like disastrous for the filmmaker.
Yeah. And I've never gotten that either. You might have drawn on something there that where it was at. is a little bit more proper.
Right.
So,
right.
Color? Do you think maybe color also had something to
Maybe.
do with it? That it just made it a little bit more
I think it could have.
Real.
I
Right,
think it
right.
really could have.
wondering
Yeah.
about-
Because it wasn't gothic, it wasn't Hammer, it wasn't vampires and werewolves.
It wasn't
was
dark
a real
shadows,
person.
it was-
it was a real person. Yeah. Like Psycho. It was like looking at ourselves.
And then you've got the addition of filming.
yes, you're
There's
filming
that weird element, and also with Psycho, Norman Bates kills with the knife,
right.
and that's something that you like. Okay, well, I would expect that a knife killer would kill with it. Like that's
Right.
that's kind of a little bit more
straightforward.
straightforward.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you. But
And the one in Peeping Tom was a little bit more interesting.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
like
out there.
killing with a weapon that he made. It's a disguised tripod.
Hidden
Right,
within
right.
the tripod.
So that you can capture the person's death
on film while
filming
you're
them.
killing.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that are going on in that
Right.
movie.
Well, it's
that
a
I
little
think
more
that-
blatantly sexual too. The symbolism.
Oh yeah,
well,
definitely,
right out of
definitely.
the gate.
And it
Whereas Psycho's it's more repressed sexuality.
Right. I mean, Janet Leigh being very vulnerable in the shower. I mean, sure, that's very visceral. This is different. It's a little bit more. It gets under the skin in a different way.
Right. Yeah.
A
And
little
that's
bit more
interesting, too.
perverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I mean, it is fascinating. I mean, as the 70s hit too, like you said, exploitation films in general, and I think even mainstream movies started to get a little more graphic. I mean, Bonnie and Clyde was kind of influential in
yeah,
the very.
yeah.
It was just your big star mainstream studio film, and it was quite violent. But then there, 70s films before the slasher craze that were kind of tentpole points, I think, that led to this, which was Last House on the Left, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course, Black Christmas. Another one.
Oh yeah, Black Christmas is definitely one of the earliest examples of a full-blown slasher movie.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But a couple of years before Halloween hit.
Yeah, and establishing a lot of the things that we identify with your standard slasher movie.
Right.
The point of view from the killer.
Right.
And man, that movie is so good.
Yeah, it's a really
so
good film.
creepy. And talk about a film that holds up to this day.
We've brought up Black Christmas before, and some of our guests who are like Canadians were like, "Hey, this is you've got to."
For a second, I thought you were going to do a Canadian accent.
No,
I
no.
was waiting for it.
no, I wasn't going to do it.
This movie's scary, eh?
It was also the first major movie to draw on a holiday, I think, as a slasher.
Yeah.
But there were a couple I read
Definitely.
about from a couple of years before that had a Christmas theme. One was made for TV and produced by Aaron Spelling.
Yes, Home for the Holidays.
No, I don't
Yeah.
know this.
Yes.
I
You know this one,
don't.
Nick?
I don't
Is that
know
any
this.
good?
one.
That's pretty good. Sally Field.
Sally Field.
No, but
Wow.
it's pretty good. It's pretty much a slasher.
Oh yeah, it is.
Made
It
for
definitely
TV,
is.
but yeah.
It's made for TV and it's a slasher.
Aaron Spelling, yeah, but it's good.
Oh my gosh!
Do you see blood? Is it a blood?
Yeah.
Barely. It's
Not
more
really.
like
Not
suspense,
really. It's more plot.
Suspense.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Come on. I mean, slasher. It's like Friday the 13th. I mean, we're not watching. Talking about a little knife and just a little speckle of blood.
But if it's Sally Field, and she has a lot of different personalities,
Sure.
that's scary.
But now,
No one said
And
anything
they
about.
all have knives.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be a good one. That'd be a good one.
yeah.
Get Showbiz on the phone.
So, but then of course, once, and we've talked about this a lot, but like once Halloween hit, and this movie was released regionally, it wasn't released wide by a big studio, and it grew in popularity. It was a sleeper hit, and by the next year, they started to trickle in other ones. Tourist Trap I think came out the next year. When a Stranger Calls,
That's a great movie.
yeah, and
Oh,
then,
I love Tourist Trap.
yeah, but and then but then I think once the first Friday the 13th came out as your kind of seminal slasher, yes, it was kind of coming off of the coattails of Halloween, but that really
Yeah.
Kinda
you
set
think
the bar.
That kind of set the bar, and that's when suddenly every holiday that was celebrated was a slasher film, and that really kind of. But that cemented the genre,
Oh,
the
yeah.
start of the genre.
But
Halloween was more suspenseful, but that was more of a
in your
of a
face
straight up-
gonzo.
Yeah, gory
A horror
body
theme
count
park
movie.
ride.
Yeah.
So you might have been, a little kid at the time and not really noticing it. But the big thing with Friday the 13th, yeah, you're right. Halloween was the more suspenseful one. Even Matt has said it's really not a slasher. It's
Doesn't
more
have a lot of gore.
No, exactly. But when Friday the 13th came out, I remember on the cover of Fangoria, they did all these things where let's put a picture of the guy with an arrow in his eye and blood.
Yeah.
And
Poor
it's like
Bill, poor Bill.
that moment, to me, that's what really opened the floodgates. Hey, it's the gore zone now. Let's make there's slasher stuff, and that's where there was all this competition to try to out-gore everybody.
Yep.
You know, right?
You know, and I gotta mention that too. Poor freaking Bill on Friday the 13th. But more than feeling bad for the guy, I'm just perplexed and fascinated by the sheer mechanics of this. Like, how exactly did she go about this? I mean, he's got an arrow in his eye. He's got an arrow here. His throat is cut.
And this is a middle-aged woman doing this.
And he
too.
died of a heart attack.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. But that's the one, and people always forget too. Like that's the only Friday the 13th where you're seeing it from the point of view of the killer. You don't know who the killer is. You know, like all the other ones change that.
And it's funny that movie is really a murder mystery.
Yeah. Right. A very gory one, but yes.
Oh yeah. And speaking of some of the murder mysteries, going back a little bit, another one that I think is one of the unsung heroes that I have to mention, that was a major influence on the slasher movie, was Pete Walker, and nobody talks about him. Frightmare, The Confessional Murders, Schizo. He definitely had a lot to do with shaping and influencing the slasher genre.
And he was British, right?
Gives him any credit.
He was a British filmmaker?
Yep.
Okay.
He was.
Yeah.
So it's like if we say, hey, John Carpenter, you're like, oh, gosh, Carpenter, he gets all this glory. We need to talk about this guy,
Just give him a shout out. Give him a mention.
Not that important.
So these films predated Halloween?
Yes. They were in the early to mid 70s.
Wow.
Is Frightmare the one with that's not the horror star one, is it?
No,
This is the cannibal.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
That's
Cannibal
the one.
woman. Okay.
That's the one hiding out in the barn.
Cannibal woman.
Yeah, she's like this middle-aged woman. She's eating people, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Middle-aged woman,
Yeah.
Matt. Hey. Wow. There are a few key words.
listening.
There are a few key words. I know that Matt's ears prick up.
But
Middle-aged woman eating.
Well, it says at the last Monsterpalooza we had some lovely young ladies mentioned, the middle-aged guys. But I
okay.
so
Wow. But Friday the 13th was released wide by Paramount, and that was a new thing too, right? I mean, that was kind of unheard of. This was a teenage slasher, gory slasher movie, and Paramount Pictures released this wide all over the country.
Oh yeah, and they took a chance on that one, and it really paid off for them.
Wasn't it kind of like almost like a somewhat of an embarrassment to the studio in a way? Like, I mean, this is like the highest grossing movies of the year.
this is the same studio that gave us The Godfather.
Yeah, right.
I was watching the Going to Pieces documentary, and it seemed like there was a constant theme of the studio heads going in to watch the film, walking out being completely just disgusted, and then the film goes on to make millions and millions of dollars. And they gotta go, well, maybe you shouldn't go see the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Just greenlight it and get out of the way.
Right.
That's what the people want.
Well, you say the people, but isn't there? I mean, after Halloween and Friday the 13th, there was this formula. It's like, all right, what do the kids want? Okay, they want to see, young kids engaging in sexual activity and hooter, like drugs and stuff and getting attacked with slasher. What? Yes, sluts and
Sluts.
Yeah,
That.
and that's what the kids wanted to see. And 18-year-olds,
My
19-year-olds.
grandfather makes a good point here. Now,
Wait a minute.
Sex
now.
and violence sells.
yeah. I mean, sure.
It's the influence of the first Halloween too, because that formula, it was so successful, and we're like, okay, well, this seems to work, and this is what's going to be successful. So let's just replicate it. It's that mentality.
I got to mention though, I kind of want to touch on this a little bit because they are two of the more misinformed things about the genre.
Misinformed.
Yes.
Matt, pay attention.
Yes.
Reinform us.
The first one, I think that isn't that fair, honestly, is the whole sex equals death thing.
Sex equals death.
Right.
Yes.
Well, we
yes.
see that a lot,
And
though.
only the good girl survives.
Yes.
If you look back on a lot of these movies, though, that isn't always the case. Alice on Friday the 13th, for example, she wasn't a good girl. I mean...
True. I mean, she was maybe not as sexually active as the rest, but she wasn't exactly
smoking weed, playing strip monopoly,
That's true.
sleeping with the boss. Come
That's
on.
true.
Smoking
You're right.
weed.
I guess she comes across as so wholesome, but you're right. She wasn't.
I like
yeah.
this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. That's true.
Yeah, and
She
even
didn't flaunt it, I guess, as much. You know.
yeah.
But isn't it? It's not even making sex bad. It's really just that when someone is having sex, they're in a very vulnerable place.
Yeah.
That is true.
Right.
That is true.
Which is ripe for the killing.
Yep.
Right. Exactly.
Kind of like taking a dump.
Right.
That's another
We need
point. And it didn't happen very often.
I know. I know. That's perfect.
Well, you know, we don't want to see that, really.
I think I do.
Wasn't there a guy?
No,
Wasn't there a
Matt,
guy though
no.
in
It would have been more realistic.
That's
wasn't there
true.
a guy in an outhouse in Friday the 13th Part 3? Didn't he get killed in the outhouse?
No.
One of those movies.
That was actually, I interviewed him in the first book, David
Really?
Cadams. And
the outhouse guy.
but he wasn't killed in
Okay,
the outhouse.
okay.
Miguel Nunez was killed in the outhouse on part 5, though.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay, right.
It was bound to happen.
yeah.
But that doesn't really count because he had already pulled up his pants and everything. So
right.
yeah. It
Well,
wasn't like taking a dump and just getting slashed.
I would.
right
I would
then.
pick the moment of the wipe.
Very distracted.
Because
Very
hands are, involved.
You know,
and,
Matt, you bring up a really interesting point.
I do, Larry.
No. It's funny because you bring up something, and we've talked in the past about, I want to see something new and fresh.
Scatological horror.
Well, no. I'm not. But
Realism.
But it's like yes. Perhaps the next slasher film that comes out, they should listen to us and do a scene where there's a whole bathroom scene where the guy is like pinching a loaf and right at that
I'm
moment.
writing the script right now.
I've heard that this is kind of a thing, but maybe I just am telling myself this to make myself feel better. But there was a time when I was growing up where I got weirded out by the toilet because I read or saw something on TV about like an alligator or something coming up.
Oh, yeah.
Something
Okay.
along those lines. I don't know if it was an alligator, but it was something scary like that.
So what did you do?
Well, I used the toilet. I didn't hold it for 3 years.
Well, no, I figured.
But
Did
I
you go
went
in
to
a bucket and
I
dump
know.
it
I went
in?
to the toilet, but I was filled with trepidation.
Okay, I understand.
It's like the toilet on Look Who's Talking 2.
Is that in your book?
Another classic.
It should be. It really should be.
Another classic slasher
That's
film.
terrifying.
Yeah, it's
Voiced
slashed
by
my
Bruce Willis. and-
sense of humor.
It's a terrifying movie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But talking about the vulnerability when you're having sex, because one of the best examples of that is in Friday the 13th Part 2.
Oh, yeah.
The couple on the bed and the spikes goes through both of them, which was exactly the same way that they killed somebody in Bay of Blood. And
Exactly.
everybody points that out all the time. That basically it's the exact same kind of killing idea.
Oh, yeah.
If it ain't broke,
Right. True.
Definitely.
But now, as these things started being churned out, for a while there, they could do no wrong.
Yeah.
I know Canada was churning them out, a whole bunch of them. They were like, "Wow, this is great. We're making all
Oh,
these
yeah. And
slashes."
they had some good ones, too.
Yeah. So, where did you see it eventually got to overkill? In mid '80s, because you still saw some. You saw them down to the end of the '80s, but there was a threshold. It seemed like.
And it's kind of funny because I've heard so many people talk about that where some are like, well, the golden age, it ended technically in 1984. And what? No, it didn't. Come on. It was still going strong. As the Nightmare on Elm Street was introduced that year.
Right.
And then there's some people they're like, oh, no, it's like 1986. And, well, no, because 1988 was one of the biggest years for a horror movie in general.
Really?
You had tons of sequels in that year
Oh,
too.
yeah,
Friday
yeah.
13th 7, Halloween 4, Sleepaway Camp 2. It's crazy.
But I think where it really went downhill and plunged into parts unknown, as Ultimate Warrior would say,
here we go.
is 1989. Because you you start to look at the box office, and it took a nosedive in 1989. It went way down for Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all those movies.
But these are like part 4, part 5.
Right,
Yeah,
the later
yeah,
sequels.
yeah, okay.
They started pulling in a lot less. And then by the end of that, it was just like in the following year as the 90s came about, it's like they just gave up pretty much.
Right.
Did
There's
they
a
feel
couple
okay?
here and there.
Slashers are done. They had a good run, and they're not going to. Okay, we're moving on from that.
It was a thing of the 80s.
Yes,
Yeah.
the thing of the 80s.
Until Scream, 1996, right?
Yeah, but there were a few here and there in between.
Right.
But what did you say? The logic here was, okay, we had a certain formula. It played itself out. People aren't going to see it. So now this whole thing of the slash film, we need to think up a different way to sell this, or a different story, or a different dress on the old gal, right?
Oh yeah, and make it self-aware, make it more tongue-in-cheek.
Right. And really,
And
Elm
Scream.
Street, Scream. But before that, like Elm Street, really, it has slasher elements, but it's also kind of like a horror fantasy, and involves the dreamscape, and you have a full-fledged personality killer. It's not, Jason or Michael Myers. It's Freddy, and he has,
Right.
And you got somebody with the intelligence of a Wes Craven,
Right.
who adds this whole level of subtext to
Right.
it that kind of lifts it above the genre.
Right.
But forget about that just for a second. Let's go back to all the other copycat Friday the 13th movies. There were so many of them that came
Right.
out,
Yeah.
and there was this backlash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seemed like all the backlash did was just make these films even more and more popular. And I was always a little put off by the backlash because you've got Psycho, which is kind of, when you look at it, its basic beats are your standard slasher movie.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right down to kills.
Definitely.
right.
And even the lasciviousness mirroring sex and violence at the
Right.
same time. That movie, which is considered a classic, did all of those things.
True.
Now, I can understand that you're not liking these movies because they're not original.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to me, I didn't like so Friday the 13th, or even the Halloween series or whatever. I kind of followed it because I was there from the beginning. But when these other ones came out, it's like, oh, you're just trying to rip these guys
Yeah.
off.
But I didn't have a
it
problem
always-
with the violence
No.
or
But it
anything.
always seemed to me like they didn't spend as much money. They're making it in like 5 days. So I felt like I didn't want to support something that it treated it so cheaply.
I felt that way too. I was
Aha.
just like, I know a ripoff when I see it. Don't
Yes.
forget,
Yes. I'm with James.
I wouldn't even see Battlestar Galactica because I.
Whoa, wait a
It's a Star
minute.
Wars ripoff.
Okay,
What-
okay.
You're not entirely wrong there, though.
Well,
Okay, I'm gonna get off this Battlestar
Okay,
Galactica
okay,
thing, but
okay.
if your point is when you saw a slasher film advertised in in the movie theater, you're like, that's just like such and such a movie.
But what about a movie like, I'm sorry, we're going to go slightly sci-fi here, but you got a movie like Star Crash, which is obviously stealing from Star Wars and everything else.
Cheap Italian ripoff.
Okay.
But somehow...
What, it takes place in space, Matt?
but-
That's ripping
Yeah,
off
yeah,
Star
that's
Wars.
what it is. Yeah,
it takes place in
because
space.
they stole space. Right? No,
Come on.
No, what I'm saying is that it is a cheap ripoff, but it being a cheap ripoff, it somehow managed to elevate itself, like throwing everything but the kitchen sink
You get into,
at you.
and look. This is you bring up Star Crash, and just in defense of Star Crash, one of the things I love.
I
Yes,
love Star Crash.
Matt. No, I sense
I
your
love
shit. No,
Star
okay. I think you're shitting on Star
No,
Crash.
I'm defending it because what I'm saying is...
let me.
We'll be back to you in a minute, Ronnie.
What if there was a
It has-
serial
I don't
killer
wanna interfere
on
in
the
this.
ship?
Look, they throw everything in there. Yes, it's cheap, man. Yes, but they throw. Look, outer space has colored
Will you
lights.
stop
No,
foaming at the
no.
mouth and listen
It
to me
has
for a
a
second?
robot.
I know it has a robot. Listen to me
stop
for a
motion.
second. Listen to me for a second. What I'm saying is that even though it's a ripoff, it somehow managed to do something fresh and
Right.
interesting in what it did. And so a lot of getting back to slashers, these copycat movies, every once in a while you'd get something where it's like, oh, that's different. The origin story of the killer was new or unique.
It's,
and
it's
you
a
go
formula
like,
that
hey,
you
that's different,
Right,
or
right.
that kill.
What
That's something I've
Oh,
never
yeah,
seen
oh, yeah.
before.
I'll tell you what I was really disappointed in, and I was kind of a fool to get my hopes up, but it was Halloween 2. Because I really loved
no way.
Halloween.
That's true.
Wait a minute.
That's one of my favorites.
I
Is
had-
it me too?
It really
yes,
is.
it tells
Wow.
the rest of the
The
story.
room's divided here.
It's like
There was no rest to the story.
Wait, whoa! There is
I-
a rest of the
For
story.
some reason, I thought it would be above, like a cut above the others.
But
and I
nothing's
was
going to
just-
really match the first one, I think. But
No, but I
Plus,
thought
they
at
had to get
least-
more slashery on this one to
Well,
kind
they
of
did.
keep up with the
Yeah,
others.
that's
That's it.
true.
High
That's
body
true.
count. Yeah,
That's
they
true.
went
It is more
full-blown
violent.
slasher
Right.
But
on
that's
that
not what I
one.
wanted. I wanted something
Right.
with a little.
But
bit
You
more.
wanted something that they couldn't deliver. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, evidently.
But see,
they
for
didn't
me-
want to, they didn't care enough.
but for me,
No,
though,
they cared. She's in the hospital. Where do you? Okay, wait. It's like oh,
Wait,
after this-
whoa.
No.
It's
After
not
this
a-
traumatic
it's not a real
experience-
hospital.
Hey, excuse me. Hello, I'm talking. After this horrific experience, it's like, oh, what do they do? Hey, just go home, Laurie Strode. No, this was tragic. This was upsetting. They take her to the hospital, and I want to find out what happens after that. I was riveted, man.
What happened after
I
that
think
was
it's a perfect follow-up, honestly.
Yes,
Really?
the
Interesting.
expert. I'm with the expert.
Okay.
I don't know where you're from.
One of the best hot tub deaths.
that's true.
That's very
like that.
true. Very
Yeah.
true.
See, people.
I will say that.
I don't want to be like this horror snob. Oh, Halloween 2.
see,
It's
there-
not as good.
Halloween 2 is not unique, though. That's the problem with that movie, is that it is more like every other film.
Yeah.
But by that time, it was competing with all the
And
other
I
films.
get that.
and that's
I
all
get-
that it aspired to.
Yes, and
True.
I still enjoy it. I still like it. But it's not in the same category at all.
look,
of the original.
I'm not gonna disagree with you. I like just the continuation, but. Is James saying, "Oh, so you wanted to get to like Halloween 3? Oh, that's what you wanted."
I actually prefer Halloween 3 to the
oh,
the other.
can you believe it?
I actually do
Wait,
too.
No,
Because it's
what?
just so bonkers.
The
Yeah,
James
yeah.
Bond of
Now-
Halloween movies.
This is a perfect time.
This is
for our expert.
This is craziness.
okay.
Craziness.
Halloween 2, Halloween 3, go.
Oh God,
Well, Halloween 3 isn't a slasher film, though.
no, it's not at
let
all.
the
It's not-
expert talk.
But how did that strike you when you see Halloween, you see Halloween 2, and then Halloween 3 comes along,
Season of the Witch.
and it's like, hey, we're going to do something different. We're going to tell another kind of story. But why call it Halloween?
Yeah, why?
Oh yeah, it should have been called something else, honestly. But I knew where they were going with it. But I think that everybody was in the same boat when they were pissed off that Michael Myers wasn't in
Sure.
it.
Of
That
course.
was me.
Yep,
That was
yep.
me. I was pissed. I'm like, what's this? And don't get me wrong. I like a good mask. It doesn't make any sense though.
That's why it's fun.
No,
Yeah.
what fun! I was irritated. It was maddening. It didn't make any sense. I'm like, I'm
got
yelling
Tom
at the
Atkins
screen.
in it, for
I
God's
wanted to
sake.
throw
Wait a
my
minute.
popcorn at the screen.
Larry,
I was
I'm
insulted.
I'm with you on this. It's like we've got a Dirty Harry movie.
Yes.
It was more like a
there's
James
no
Bond.
Dirty
No
Harry.
Dirty Harry.
It was more like a James Bond movie, I thought, complete with the evil villain tying up the hero and telling him all about his intricate plot.
You know who would have done that movie better? Mario Bava.
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
that is
all the
very true.
crazy.
That is very true.
Yeah. But see, with the slasher films, to me, like in the 80s, there were two types of slasher films. There was like the really low budget, seedy kind of slashers, like Don't Go in the House and New Year's Evil and Mother's Day. But then they're like the slightly slicker, higher
He almost
budgeted
knocked
ones.
over his bear. It's fine.
The slightly
Nice catch.
slicker ones like Happy Birthday to Me and Terror Train, which had, somewhat bigger names and, there was a slickness to
little
them.
glossier.
But I kind of like this. I like the sleazy low budget ones. Like,
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
New Year's Evil. I love. I don't know why, but I love that movie.
Okay, can I ask you something about? You brought up sleazy.
Yeah.
And we had the amazing William Lustig on our show.
Yeah, well,
and we
that's-
talked
yeah.
about Maniac.
Maniac. See, there's a handful of slasher films. Here's the thing: you look at the horror landscape today.
All right.
Look at
Okay, got
it. So many. You look at shows like The Walking Dead
Yeah.
or Game of Thrones, and the level of violence and brutality that you see, and on other shows and movies too, is the so-called notorious slasher films of the 80s were like, it was the end of civilization, and my God,
True.
the impact it's going to have on our young children.
We've come a long
They are
ways.
fucking,
Yes.
they're fucking Saturday morning
golden age.
cartoons.
No,
Indeed.
compared
Sean,
to-
I will agree with you 100%.
I mean, they're so mild, but there are a handful of slasher films that still to this day pack a wallop for
I'm
their.
thinking of one right now.
Of course, there's Maniac. I would say also Don't Go in the House a little bit. There's a couple killings in there that are really effective.
Maniac Cop.
But Maniac Cop
love
is good, but I
Maniac
wouldn't say
Cop.
that's like a disturbing. I mean, I'm talking
Not
about
as much as
disturbing.
Maniac.
The Prowler has one of the most.
That's the one I
Yeah.
wanted to mention.
That
Yeah.
the pitchfork
It
in the
was
shower
sickening.
scene
It
is
was
just
sickening.
it is like you're watching somebody get killed. It's one of the best
Horrifying.
best Savini effects.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
actress is totally believable and is just so good. And also, I would say that a really brutal movie that it's Italian, but I'd still say it plays more like a slasher than a giallo, and that is Fulci's New York Ripper.
Oh yeah.
That movie is just to be a woman at all in that movie. You're in trouble. I mean, that's a brutal movie.
The one with the killer duck?
Yeah, you walk away like
That's a
"Oh,
really
holy
good
shit."
recommendation.
Yeah, but it's really effective. But those are movies that that kind of make the other slashers pale in comparison as far as their effectiveness. I mean, Maniac is still effective.
Well, and it's
Oh,
funny
yeah.
you bring up a really interesting thing because it seemed like there was a pinnacle. There was a moment where when these films started to come out, Friday the 13th, and put the picture of the guy with the arrow in his eye, whatever, it kind of hit this mark where people said, we got to stop this. When Maniac came out, and Maniac was like really graphic. It didn't. Lustig say it was. He was in jeopardy of not being allowed to show it or having an X
yeah,
rating,
yeah.
and he actually said that it had a lot to do with the poster that he created, but
Right.
which had to be modified. But I remember seeing pictures in Fangoria magazine and saying it had almost like that film had crossed a line almost. It was almost like so graphic.
yeah.
And again, it's the special effects by Savini were like
Right.
top notch at that time.
You talk about Maniac being graphic, but the Prowler, that one pushed it over the top. Like you honestly think that these people just got murdered.
Yeah,
It
they're the
looked
most
so
realistic killings.
realistic. Yeah.
But also, the other backlash happened was when, in 1984, Silent Night, Deadly Night came out, and that's
I
not
love
even,
that movie too. It's one of my
but
favorites.
it's not a very it's not that graphic of a movie.
But there was a huge
But
controversy
the ad
about
campaign,
that film.
The ad campaign, you
Oh,
saw
yeah.
a commercial, and it was a killer Santa Claus.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
mothers complained.
And it wasn't the first Killer Santa either.
right,
Yeah,
right.
the 70s. Tales from the Crypt.
I know, but
Right,
All
yeah.
through the house.
But Matt,
Yep,
it wasn't
yep.
as graphic as this, and I do remember on the news
Right.
seeing the people who were pissed off at look at what you're doing to Santa. My kid sees the advertisement.
Right,
No,
right.
you laugh. Oh, what? You don't like Christmas? No, it's
No,
like it's
I
like,
don't like Christmas.
No, I love Christmas and I love my Santa. And I remember the moms being pissed off that look what you're doing to Santa.
Moms are always pissed off.
No, moms aren't
They were
always
delighted to have
No.
something to hate.
No, no,
Right.
Matt.
It was
that's
a
Pretty much,
scapegoat.
pretty much.
But do you
But
guys
they
remember
actually-
back in this time there was a big uproar about this film, and the irony is that people being upset about it got it more attention. I think.
But actually,
Oh, yeah,
the TriStar,
definitely.
ended up pulling ads for it, and that effect I think was the latest.
And it got pulled from the theater really quickly too.
right, and
That's fucked up.
and that's very effective. And then I think that the latest Friday the 13th at the time got hit for pulling back on the gore because of that campaign. So that was like
That was Friday the 13th.
I think part 4 maybe. I
The
think
final
Santa's
chapter.
back.
final chapter. Yeah. So like they had to pull back. It was suddenly that was more attention was given to it because of the gore. Because really the first Friday the 13th is still the goriest of all the Friday the 13ths. Right? I mean,
Debatable. I think part 4 definitely takes the cake
Really?
because that one is more in your face.
Which is the
brutal.
one with Jason's head on the knife sliding
That's
down?
4, right?
Is that 4?
Oh yeah, that was part 4.
Because that's
That
when
was
they
part
kill,
4.
so-called quote, kill
Yeah.
Jason.
Well, all you have to do is look at the first kill in the movie with the morgue attendant, and then
True.
that is one of the most messed up ones in the
Right.
entire series.
Right, that's true. That's true. So, but yeah, it was interesting how the backlash suddenly, moms complaining and parents complaining, and now it was more fuel to the fire of like giving slashers a bad name.
Do you know it's funny, Sean? I do remember I remember the news thing. I remember the moms being interviewed, and I purposely look. I was a fan of horror film stuff, but I purposely stayed away from this film because
Really?
I didn't want to see
What a wuss.
I didn't want to see evil Santa.
Right.
Okay,
That's sad.
It's-
Look. First
Well,
of all,
and then
so,
it was like,
so there can't be a killer Santa because there's no Santa. Sorry, kids.
okay. There are some people who you've just crushed their Christmas.
Yeah,
Great,
the little
good.
tykes listening to this podcast.
All I'm doing is helping you
Right,
in
right.
the big scheme of things. Yeah, whether it's rock and roll or horror movies,
Yeah.
mothers get bored. They don't know what the fuck to do with their lives.
no, it has
so they
they're
or fathers. I'm just saying, parents get to this place where
They just want something to be
they
pissed
just
off
want
about.
something to fuel,
Sure.
to give meaning to their lives.
No.
If I'm pissed off about this, then it means I have a
Well, no,
purpose.
I've got
it
a
has
great
no
example.
No. He's our guest. He has an example.
I've got a great example of this, and it was
All right, Mr. Expert. Let me hear your example.
Not slashers, but what you were talking about. Marilyn Manson in the 90s.
Yes, yeah.
I
Yeah,
remember
totally.
that when he was on the Music Awards and Antichrist Superstar came out, and I went and I bought that from the local store.
Right?
And when my mom saw it, she flipped and she made me take it back.
Really?
She actually walked me in there
Oh my.
Oh my gosh.
to exchange it.
Here, buy this Wham album instead.
No.
Okay.
This is even better. This is even better.
What?
She said, "You need to exchange this for something nicer." And she picked up a Sam Kinison CD.
But she had no idea, right?
She had no idea. And she said that this would be much better. And I said,
That's hilarious.
Sure. I'm all for this.
Now I just want to
wait a
defend.
minute.
Wait, I would just want to defend Wham because because Wham they were pretty hot,
Great.
man.
That's
They were
great.
great
Okay.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wham's
I'm
fine.
nothing. I'm not saying anything against
I'm
Wham.
not a
No,
Wham
I just
hater.
I don't want to. It's not like Pat Boone, or
I don't hate. Look,
Yeah.
look. Do your music, whatever,
Yeah.
but just don't stop me from enjoying my music.
Right, exactly.
When
That's right.
My thing was, I remember buying a Black Sabbath best of called "We Sold Our Souls for Rock and Roll,"
right.
and my mom is a little Christy, in all the best ways. Actually.
Sure. No, I understand.
But so I have the downstairs room, and I'm constantly blaring the most terrible music for her mind. And when I discovered Black Sabbath, forget about it, right? John Rose got it in that mess, So this album, when you folded the album out, it was because it was 2 albums.
Right.
You folded it out, and there was this like gothic woman, and she's like holding onto a crucifix in a clear plastic coffin or something.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the inside photo.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And my mom came down, she looked at that thing, and she's like, "What is this?" I go, "It's Black Sabbath." And she just ran. So then I knew that whenever I wanted my mom to leave my room, put on Black Sabbath.
Right.
Now,
That's awesome.
look,
Mine was Guar.
Nice.
Okay, now, look, I just
we miss
want,
him.
I have a
Oh,
very
yeah.
important thing to say. You guys say that parents go out of their way to grab something because to make themselves angry. No, I think what it is, it's they're trying to protect their kids. They love their kids,
course.
and they see something that they
From
don't.
fun.
No, well, you say from fun. They don't understand, and anyone a parent here? Oh, hello, hey, let me raise my hand. I'm just saying that parents, you want to
What's your
protect
kid's
your
favorite
kid.
movie?
The Exorcist.
Nice going, Dad.
No, but I'm fine. My daughter, who I don't know if you met at the convention, but she she actually has this wonderful necklace with Damien from the Omen on.
Oh, nice.
And,
Nice.
and
No, but the point is, she's a perfectly
she's a normal kid. She's a
well-rounded
lovely
kid,
kid.
yeah.
Yes, because she has a good mom and dad.
and a good imagination.
That's
Yes.
right.
And
That's
she's
right.
creatively
Fine.
stimulated.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's fiction.
Yes, so I'm just saying that I don't think they were going out of their way to piss you off. It was something that they didn't understand, and they were wanting to protect you from, whatever evil or something that's going to.
Yeah, I can see that.
And again, going back to how things have changed over time, now, Christmas slasher movies are a whole subgenre.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's just,
yeah.
now nobody bats an eye. That's what's so amazing, though. Is like it's changed so much. You know,
like what I was saying is, before that, there was Christmas Evil and To All a Good Night.
Right.
So why weren't those ones being picketed?
right? Don't open till Christmas.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Why
I
was
know.
it just this
I know.
one that
Just
was
somebody
targeted?
glommed onto that one.
To All a Good Night is
David Hess directed that
David
one.
Hess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's a better movie.
That's a pretty good movie. Yeah, I actually like all the Christmas theme ones. I mean, but even and during like the most controversial years of slashers, it's funny how because nothing is more tempting than success. And they just kept churning them out. But you even saw some big name actors. I mean, Glenn Ford is in Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah.
It's like Leslie Nielsen in Prom Night.
Didn't we hear about that? My understanding was one of the reasons why he did it was he figured, okay, well, he's a working actor, and this seems to be a new craze. So
it's Ben Johnson from the Wild Bunch. It was in Terror Train.
Glenn Ford and Ben Johnson are fine with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So am I.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Happy Birthday to Me was directed by J. Lee Thompson, who had done the Guns of Navarone.
Yeah, I mean,
and didn't we? And wasn't Lisa Langlois, who was a guest on our show, and she went into detail about that. So listeners, check out that episode.
And you had that kind of little tiny subgenre of like action stars that were in kind of pretty much slasher movies, like Charles Bronson in 10 to Midnight.
That's a category all on its own, and that one has some really good titles too. 10 to Midnight, Silent
Rage. Yep.
I include the Deadpool, the Dirty Harry movie, because
you're right.
has
That is
all
pretty
the
much
elements of a
absolutely.
slasher movie.
Okay. Yeah.
And Cruising with Al Pacino.
Yes,
that was a big
that's
controversial one too.
That was
right.
very controversial at the time.
Yeah.
Now, for listeners who don't know that, can you explain the synopsis of Cruising?
Yes.
Now you're really putting me on the spot. Thanks.
Of all the movies,
That's the one
that
you
were
want to pick
brought
out.
up.
That's
Well,
the one you
that's
want to pick
the
out.
one.
Look, Al
And
Pacino.
can you describe it for Larry slowly?
No, I'm just guys.
As
Come
if you're
on.
cruising.
Okay, this is all very funny, but Al Pacino, who is the star of this film,
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Directed by Wayne Friedkin.
I mean, he had done. This is like he was in The Godfather. Hello,
Yeah, I know,
maybe
I've
you've
heard
heard
of
of
it.
Dog Day Afternoon, and
Yes.
this. And I remember when the film came out,
People told him it was going to ruin his
it
career,
ruined his career.
but it didn't. He was fine.
It wasn't really that successful, was it?
I don't think
was like,
so.
it
I
did
don't think
okay,
it really
right?
was.
So-
I think it did okay.
So, if
but-
I remember correctly, it takes place within like a gay community.
It's like the
Yeah,
S&M
in
gay
New York.
subculture.
Yes.
and there's a serial killer that's wiping them out.
Right.
So Al Pacino has to go undercover.
He goes
into
undercover.
the scene, like deep undercover.
Yeah.
And it's just
I've done
nobody
that
had
just for
ever
no
seen
reason.
that before.
Right.
And that was the basis of the controversy, that it took place in that environment.
Pretty much, yeah.
It wasn't the
yeah.
slasher element, really.
Yep,
It just
exactly.
happened to have that in the plot.
That's why I wanted to bring it up, buddy.
Wow.
Controversy.
Controversy. Yeah, see, these movies, they spawn controversy.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's part of their appeal.
And they take different permutations too. Like you did get the supernatural element sometimes, and like when Elm Street came out, you got some kind of slasher variations. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, which is kind of like a slasher thing, but also
ghost, though,
it's
right?
like
Or
kind of
something?
a Freddy Krueger.
I
like
personally love
ghost.
that movie.
That's a fun movie, yeah. But even before Elm Street, there was an interesting one called The Slayer.
The Slayer is one of my all-time favorite movies.
That's a cool movie.
Tell me about that. But these are the movies I want to find out about. I want to know about
the
these,
Slayer.
the more obscure ones.
That,
Tell me
that
about
stand
this.
out and are really worth checking out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And The Slayer was about two couples who, and they weren't young either.
Adults, yeah, it was
Yeah.
adults.
What's the date, Sean? This one's
82.
82.
82.
Okay.
and they went to an island, and the pilot dropped them off there, and they were going to spend, I believe, a weekend there, and it's really isolated. There's nobody else on this island. It's windswept, and there's hardly anything on it, and it just has one of the most eerie feelings out of any movie.
There's like a female character having these kind of like bizarre dreams or premonitions of death.
Yeah,
and then something starts happening. You don't know what it is.
And so there's nobody else on the island except this couple. As far as
a couple,
they know.
two couples. Yeah,
Two
two
couples.
couples.
Two
Yeah.
couples, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they start getting killed, and the kills are brutal too.
Yeah, pretty effective. Yeah, and but
Yeah.
it has some kind of dream elements you later see in the Elm Street films. But yeah, that's a good one. you
Oh
know.
yeah, and even more than that one, the one that I would suggest to everybody, because it is one of the most extreme and legit scary movies that you'll find out there, and that's Superstition from 1980.
Superstition.
Yes, that is a good one. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Definitely supernatural elements,
Yeah.
but also slasher.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
and that one is just brutal.
I think it just came out in Blu-ray too.
So what is the synopsis behind Superstition?
Basically, there was this witch who was executed on the spot of this house, and she cursed the land, and pretty much anybody that stepped foot on this property would be horribly, horribly murdered in the worst ways possible. And of course, the church takes it over, and
At church.
they move in one of the new priests and his family, and things turn out lovely for them. It's a happy ending.
That is a good one, though. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So as far as like graphic stuff goes, would you consider this to be like more graphic?
It's pretty graphic.
One or
Oh yeah. There's some definite graphic parts in it. Plus, it's one of those movies that goes to the taboo. And when I'm talking about that, Sleepaway Camp did that too.
Sure.
And Don't Torture a Duckling did that too.
I don't know that one. Don't
That's a
torture a
Fulci film.
duckling.
Do they
Yeah.
torture a duckling?
Oh, do they torture?
no. No.
Do they?
No.
No, it's kind of like a
Forget it
symbolic.
Yeah.
You and what is your thing with ducks?
No. Look, I just want truth in advertising. That's all.
Don't torture a duckling involves child murders.
And same with
Oh, that's bad
okay,
too.
yeah.
same with Sleepaway Camp and Superstition. Also, it doesn't focus on that, but it does have that as an element to it.
Right.
Which is more like all the cards are off the table here. It's
Right.
just like they're going all out.
That movie, though, has a pretty good budget. It looks beautiful.
Oh yeah, it does.
How about something that's down and dirty, low budget, but just does the most with what they've been given? Everything is put on screen.
One that really stands out to me is Fatal Games.
Fatal Games.
Fatal Games.
Fatal Games.
I know of that one, but I have not seen that one.
It has a javelin killer. It is very low budget.
Sports mat.
Does this take place at the Olympics?
It's an Olympic training center, actually.
Oh my God! This sounds okay, dude. I do not know this one. What's the year around?
84.
84. Okay, 84.
Magic
84
year of
Olympics.
84.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my
yep.
gosh!
And this movie is amazing too, and it's very dark and very creepy.
I
And
gotta see that one.
I got to tell you a personal story that is when it affected me. And I used to be a security guard at a college, and one of the shifts that I did was graveyard shift.
Okay.
When nobody else is on campus.
Sure.
And honestly, there was nothing going on in this town at that time. You could do whatever you want. It
Sure.
doesn't matter. As long as you check on it every few hours, whatever.
Yeah.
But I remember I would go and get a workout in while I was on shift.
No.
Yeah. And just it hit me, the darkened hallways of the gyms and the locker rooms at night, and it's abandoned and, is very dimly lit. And that is where this movie excels. And it is very effective on a very low budget, too.
One of the things about low budget horror movies is that I find them more effective in general because of the low budget. It's like you can
Yes,
get,
yeah.
you can't recreate Texas Chainsaw with a Hollywood budget.
Oh yeah.
There's something that you can't even describe about, okay, you're in some universe that anything can really kind of happen. And even the most primitive effects, like a movie like Maniac, which had Savini effects and was very effective, just because it's so cheap, there's something about it
That
that's
New
extra
York-
creepy.
Yeah.
And you're never going to get that back.
It's very.
That's
it's
what
very,
ruins all the 90s ones. for
It's
me.
very raw.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's
and anything now, because technology is so accessible now,
Right.
that everything just looks too slick.
They're shooting on
Oh
these
yeah,
high
that's
def.
one of my big complaints.
Well, I think Scream. I mean, I enjoy that movie a lot. I think it's a good. I don't think it's quite as amazing as everybody says. I think it's a
See,
good
Scream?
Scream, yeah.
See,
It's
no.
a good- but no, just listen. That movie for me, suddenly that kind of started a little bit of a new wave of
Yeah.
slasher. But it was super slick, and also you saw a bunch of TV stars now.
Yes.
Yeah.
People
yeah,
like,
yeah.
people like Sarah Michelle Gellar
flavor
and
of the
Courtney
month.
Cox, who you never have caught dead in a movie like Maniac or New Year's Evil at the time. So like that suddenly it's like it was mainstream.
Yeah.
It was big studios.
Yeah.
It was big budget,
Yeah.
big stars, and not the same as like seeing Don't Go in the House.
But you see,
completely
Sean,
different experience.
When I saw Drew Barrymore, I mean, it was to me like Psycho. I did not I'm sorry, I'm like the idiot. I did not expect to see what happened to her.
Oh, no, the
in
movie is
in
very
the
effective
film.
and-
It's Psycho. It's
Yeah.
Psycho.
Yes.
But
You're right, though.
But it was more. It was more than Psycho. It was like they had psychological stuff, and they added more to it. I mean, and
what I'm
love-
saying about Psycho is that they killed off the star.
Yeah.
Right.
The big star that you do not expect to see
or
killed.
a big name. And what I liked about Scream and that whole Scream franchise is it just seemed like they did put money and energy and casting into it that made you go, I don't know who's going to make it out of this. And I didn't mind the slickness. I didn't mind the slickness.
Yeah, I'm just saying
really
it's a
didn't.
different experience.
But I
There's-
do compare that to something like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where I have an issue with the ending. We've talked about that, but that's another story.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original?
Yeah, we've talked about my issue with the ending.
Which is what again?
Well, you know,
I gotta hear this.
Okay.
I gotta hear
He
this.
has to hear this.
Okay, all right. So spoiler alert. If for listeners, if you haven't seen the original
Yes.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre, we are recommending that you see it. Right?
Right.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right.
One of the earlier slashers.
It's one of my favorite films of all time.
Me too.
Same
Okay.
here. Same
Okay.
here.
So spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it, turn down your listening device
Forward.
for the next minute.
All
or
two
so.
of you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Expert. Here's my issue. Okay, my issue is we know how it ends. The girl runs into this truck, right?
Yep.
And the truck drives away, and she's freaking out.
Screaming,
She's
yes.
screaming, "Oh my god!" And you got the guy with the big, chainsaw, and he's spinning around, and you have to say, "Well, what happened? Did they go to the police department and they go, hey, my friends just got killed. Can we take the police and go to this place
Okay.
and go back to the
Okay.
place and
Well,
arrest these
that is
people?
explained in the sequel.
But hey,
true.
hey, I'm talking about the original film. I feel that oh God, she gets away, but what happened? I remember feeling so what? I feel like they got it. The girl gets away, but I feel like this horrific family gets away with it.
Okay.
I want to see the comeuppance.
I think-
that's what he
All
gets
right.
off. He
Edwin
gets no.
Neal is
I'm not
already
done.
killed.
I'm still talking. I'm still talking. And so the guy, he's running around with his chainsaw, and it's like I'm done. Now I'm going to go back to cutting up chickens or whatever it is.
Because there's going to be no ramification.
No.
The thing that
Right, they're just
is
going
a-
to drive away, and no one's ever going to come back and investigate this.
I want to see that.
Yeah, honestly, really.
Yes,
You
yes.
think that's good filmmaking?
No, Matt.
You think that's good
Matt,
filmmaking to all of a sudden
Matt, that's-
have now we
see-
get to see the court trial.
No, see,
and
Matt,
then the
no, you
halfway
don't need,
house.
no, you
that
don't need to see that.
Leatherface goes to.
I want to see the cops
That's
come.
stupid.
And, no, it's not stupid. How about a big shootout? It's like, oh, there's that big guy with the big chainsaw. Let's go. Big explosions and the house
Because
blows
it's not
up.
about that. It's
no,
about her.
But I want to know what happens to her. I want to find
You
out.
know what happens to her.
She-
She's fucked up for the rest of her life.
Yes,
Exactly.
but
You see that.
yes,
You
yes.
see that in her behavior
But-
when she's in the back of that
Yeah,
truck.
Matt.
She's never getting over
I
that.
get, with some therapy, I'm sure she'll be able to
No,
recover.
she
Yes,
won't.
I think
No,
but
never.
I want to see this guy get his comeuppance, and he doesn't get it. I had that problem with Magnificent Ambersons, and I have it with this film. So I'm not saying it's not a great film. I'm saying it is a good film.
Larry needs,
but I
like,
just
at the
wanna-
end of every movie, there's
I-
got to be a nice little bow where
Aha.
For everything.
find out everybody,
It's a little like the end of the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, where he gets to the
You're
police.
next.
And then
you wanted the extra scene. I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yes.
to interrupt
no. That scene at the end was tacked on, where he's getting the attention of the guy from the Dick
Yes,
Van Dyke
because
Show.
people
You like that?
Yes, I do.
You think that's a better ending of Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
I liked it because he goes, oh my gosh, and then these people say, oh look what we found. Oh, we gotta close those borders, and if something's
so
gonna
you
happen.
don't like horror?
No, I
No,
do.
you don't. You
No,
don't
I
like
do.
horror.
No, I do
You don't like horror.
Why
no,
are you
no,
on
no.
this podcast?
No,
Because what's
Oh, I don't know, Sean. Maybe I know a lot about science fiction and fantasy too.
This is kind of what we do, Ronnie.
No, I'm just
I'm just chilling over here.
No,
Are you,
okay,
are you flashing back to your wrestling days?
Okay, okay.
Kind of. It
Okay,
kind of does.
let me get back to Mr. Expert here. So, am I out of line?
Yes.
Do you not know? I didn't ask you. I asked the expert.
You're next.
Do you hear me though? You see how unsatisfied I am?
I think
we
the bigger
see.
question that you want to ask
There we go.
is what happened to the truck driver, Ed Gwynn? That's an even bigger question. You see him run down the road. What the hell
That's
happened
true.
to him after
Right,
that?
right.
Well, okay, yes, okay. I want to know. I just felt like it was an incomplete film. It ended. You know what it's like? It's like because
Your complaint has been noted.
No. Okay. The last thing I'm going to say, it's like
Is it?
it's like Matt. Yes, the Matt's complaint about the Empire Strikes Back. Well, it's not a great film because it doesn't have an ending. Well, I feel the same way about Texas Chainsaw Massacre because it doesn't have the ending that satisfies
That Larry
me.
Strode once.
So
Okay.
You don't like
could
horror.
turn.
You don't want to see
No, you can turn on your listening
Marilyn
device
Burns
now.
drive away, ruined forever. Good night.
Right.
That is how a horror movie should end.
Okay.
It's not a happy ending. Your life is changed forever.
I'm not saying it doesn't have to be. It has to be a happy ending. It can be an unhappy ending. But I just feel that there wasn't an ending.
Speaking of, The Hills Have Eyes, Part 2.
I was just going to say. So.
Okay?
Oh,
Now-
shit.
To me, that seems like the perfect sequel for you, Larry. That all of a sudden,
'cause
the
it's shitty.
fucking animal lady who eats human flesh with her family.
Yeah.
She's fine now.
Now she's got her
fine.
hair all done,
Yeah.
Yeah.
married, going to the PTA.
She's married to one of the survivors.
She's one of the,
Right.
They've worked things out.
Yeah, they've got a boutique candle store at
She's,
the mall.
she's complaining about Silent Night, Deadly Night on TV.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh God, I want to kiss you, Shawn Sheridan. That's the perfect crossover.
So am I out of line?
I couldn't have said it better.
Right. No, but yeah, but there are different opinions of that film.
But speaking of Hills Have Eyes Part 2,
Yes.
people can say whatever they want about it, but it has one of the smartest characters ever in it. At the beginning, he survived the first movie,
Yes.
and he says, hell no, I'm not going to go. I'm going to stay right here. One of the smartest
Right.
decisions
Which you
in
never
any
see.
horror movie
Right.
ever.
That's true.
That's why they had to use all the flashbacks because it was like,
Right,
no, fuck it, I'm
right.
not doing the rest of this movie.
Right.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
No, I'm staying right here, and I'll see you at craft services.
Right. But it is interesting how, once you had I Know What You Did Last Summer and all those, it's like it was just acceptable, mainstream. No parents complaining about commercials on TV, and it was just like it's become like the norm again.
Well, it's almost become like retro.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
funny because in the mid 2000s, looking at all the films that were made, it is unbelievable how many remakes of classic slasher films.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, God, yeah.
in 2006, you had a new version of Black Christmas, When a Stranger Calls. You had a new Prom Night, a new April Fool's Day, 2009, a new My Bloody Valentine, Last House on the Left. These are all remakes.
Oh my gosh,
Big
Sean, I did-
budget, slick, studio remakes
I didn't know there
of
were so many.
notorious
Oh, yeah,
80s
yeah, there's a
slasher
lot.
films.
Valentine 3D.
Yeah.
Yes, it
yeah.
was.
That's the CEO.
They
Okay,
had a
okay,
screening
yeah,
of it recently at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and that
good?
was amazing.
Is that a good one? I've heard that's pretty
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
But is it more?
It's
is
one
it
of
a
the
throw?
goriest
Is it okay.
movies that has come
Okay.
out recently.
Okay,
All
so
right.
with My Bloody Valentine in 3D,
Yeah.
would you recommend this one?
Definitely.
Out of all
one
the
of the
more
best
recent
remakes.
Out of
Okay.
all the remakes, is that the one you recommend most? What are the best ones?
yeah, I would definitely recommend that one.
Are any of the? And I've not seen any of these. I've heard good things. Are any of the Hatchet films good? There's like 4 of them.
I'm on the fence. They're fun. Don't get me wrong, they're fun.
I like the second one better.
The second one is good with Tony Todd in
Yes.
Okay.
it. Yeah, they're interesting. They're fun. I wouldn't call them good movies.
Yeah,
but
right.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
But I think
They
like,
are fun.
You look back at the early wave of them. They were like these little underdog films. You know what I mean? They were just like the misfit films that just like were making money, and the teenagers going to see them. Everybody else seemed to frown upon them. Even the studios that were making them kind of frowned upon them, but they were making money. But they were just like the underdog genre. I mean, Siskel and Ebert, I remember, did like I think a special episode of sneak previews where
Yeah.
they talked about it was
Yeah.
the end of the
Yes.
world because these films are coming. They were criticizing movies they hadn't even seen. They were like
It
criticizing
was,
the
it was
posters.
like a dirty word
The
back
trailers.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
trailers.
I was like, it's unbelievable.
It did bug me because at the time, I mean, I loved watching Siskel and Ebert. I really did.
They were like,
And
so, you watch those, man. You watch them.
What
now,
they were like film snobs. Is that what you're saying,
Yes.
Sean?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
Big time.
let's just say
And Ebert's wrong about so many fucking
no.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I think it's like apples and oranges, but it did irritate me that I think there were some films that they didn't see. That
Yes,
was the thing that
yeah.
really irritated me, and there maybe
Gene
they-
Siskel really liked Halloween 3. Do you remember that?
Really?
No.
He sang the Silver Shamrock song on the show.
Are you kidding me?
are
Really?
kidding
Oh my
me.
God.
Really?
And Roger Ebert gave him no end of shit. I think it carried over into other episodes.
Yeah.
But, but people also forget that Roger Ebert wrote the screenplay for Beyond the Valley
Yeah,
of the
Beyond
Dolls.
the Valley of the
And
Dolls.
Ebert
Which is pretty
Yeah,
great.
he-
Which he's a freaking hypocrite.
Ebert went
Yeah,
on.
exactly.
okay.
Ebert went on
That's
a
what I've always thought.
Ebert went on
The
a
second I saw that.
historic rant about Night of the Living Dead
He
when
did.
it was first released.
When it
And-
first released.
and
That's right.
he had to eat his words
He
because
did.
he finally acknowledged it
Yeah.
for what it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's so
you know,
big of him.
Well,
Yeah.
if
It was Sean. It was.
if those guys,
He didn't understand it.
you know what?
okay.
If those guys were still alive now, I think they would have a reappreciation for that whole.
I would
genre.
hope so. Yeah, because that was always. I mean, slasher films are such easy prey for critics too. You know, I mean, but.
And for listeners who don't know, Siskel and Ebert, they were these reviewers. Well, they wrote reviews in the Chicago newspapers, and then they eventually had a show on
And they were like the
television.
biggest,
and
movie
for a
critics
time,
of
they were the
time.
big movie critics. That they got a lot of press.
Yeah, they were on PBS. and they
PBS
had
for a while, and then they got
At
their
the
own show.
Movies
At the
was the
Movies.
later one. What was the first one?
Yeah, but the thing that was frustrating.
Sneak previews.
Sneak
The
previews.
thing that was frustrating was when they first started out, how they rated films. It was like a level. I think it went from 1 to
Thumbs up,
5.
thumb-
No.
Oh, that was
It was like a
later.
1 to
That was
5.
later.
And so it's like the film was marginal, and they would give it a 3. If it was great, it was a 5.
Right.
It was
But
terrible.
they would have
But-
the dog of the week.
the dog of the week.
Yeah,
No,
you know.
but the thing that I didn't like is when they transitioned, they left PBS, and that's when they gave the thumbs up and the thumbs down. To me, it was a black and white,
Right.
and that's not fair.
But also, I loved it when they did Dog of the Week because I would always seek out that movie. That was a movie I wanted to see.
It was always a horror movie.
Yeah,
and
It
the
was a
funny
low
thing is
budget
that
horror.
there'd be a little fuzzy, a real little dog that would come up.
Yeah,
He goes,
yeah.
"Hey, it's our
Well,
Sparky, the dog of the week."
It's like with horror movies, it's the same thing that superhero movies are starting to get now, which is, critics will-
Oversaturated.
Well, it's oversaturated, but then also critics will come in and go, well, it's just mindless. Look, review every movie individually. Don't just paint an entire genre
Right.
to be one thing. There's good superhero movies. There are bad superhero
Right.
movies.
Definitely.
And look, guys, you're making it sound like there's a superhero movie that comes out every week. And I will defend this.
Well,
No,
pretty
much.
close.
no, that's
Every
not
other
true. Okay, so where's the Hawkman movie? Where,
Okay,
I mean, come on.
no, they have a different movie.
it's in development.
Yeah.
But it's like there's some big movie coming out, and and everyone's excited. But the ones that are coming out after that, I mean, they're big budget. I don't think they're
But also
cheap.
film criticism itself has just become consolidated on Rotten
Yes.
Tomatoes, whatever the aggregate is. That's
I know
all it
it's
is
very
now.
different now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's weird too, because then you get the audience score, and then you've got the critic score.
right. Yeah, it's very
And,
it's so
yeah,
different
It
now.
doesn't exist like it
Strange.
used
I mean,
to.
and looking at the list that I made that I compiled for this episode, it's actually amazing how varied the styles of the slashers are actually across the decades. I mean, there really is a lot of variety. I mean, even like the early 80s, you get into the supernatural stuff like 1980s, The Boogeyman. I always like, because that one's really kind of almost like a ghost story, or it's a shard of a mirror that's possessed by the killer's spirit.
It's
And
an odd one.
It's a very odd
Yeah,
one, but it
it
kind of
works.
and it's cheaply made and has that kind of grungy feel to it, but it's kind of unique and kind of scary. Like, that's a good one.
Yeah, that one is actually one of the more legit scary ones that's out there.
Yeah. So
And that's no, Jason Alexander is The Burning.
Yeah,
Oh,
Jason
yeah.
Alexander was in The Burning.
that's right. The full head of hair.
Wait,
Oh, yeah.
Jason Alexander from Seinfeld.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right.
Yep.
He gets
No.
killed by some shears.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one.
And
You could
who
tell
else was
that,
in it?
though,
Holly
that his
Hunter was
hair-
in it, I believe.
That's right.
Who?
Holly Hunter.
And Fisher Stevens was in it.
That's
God.
right. And of course, Tom Hanks is in He Knows You're Alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's really funny is with The Burning, in the second book, I interviewed I can't remember exactly how many people from The Burning,
Right.
but Shelley Bruce, Ned Eisenberg, Brian Matthews. I'm sure that there's a few more in there, but several people from The Burning.
Cool.
Yeah.
Isn't the Weinstein brothers in The Burning too? Before they were producers.
That was one of their very first movies that they made.
gosh.
Wow.
Look at them now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Well, I don't mean to laugh at anyone's.
Why not? Sure. We can laugh at bad guys.
all right,
We
yeah.
can
Yeah.
laugh at bad guys.
At them.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, Ronnie, I pride myself on finding, obscure films and a lot of obscure slashers, but you must have some titles that are like ones that you like or that you want other people to be aware of. What are ones that maybe not a lot of people know about?
Dig deep in your books.
Yeah.
All right.
Or as James would say, the hidden treasures.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't say it exactly like that.
I would say the first one that really comes to mind for me is Rituals.
Oh, yes. That's a great one. Canadian.
What's the date on this one?
77, I believe.
Kind of a proto slasher.
Yeah,
really.
yeah, with
Really?
Hal Holbrook in it.
It's kind of like a Just Before Dawn kind of movie. It's a
It
killer
is.
stalking men on this.
Older men, and
Yeah,
it's like a
that's
Deliverance
great
type
one.
of movie.
It
like a
is.
Deliverance
It's like a
slasher.
Canadian Deliverance. That's a great.
That sounds
one.
great.
That is a good one. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's very mean-spirited, too.
Yes.
Like, what
Even
the
better.
killer does to them.
Yeah.
It's a lot of psychological things, like taking their shoes and then the only way to cross this river is right here where the rope is, and putting bear traps down right there. Things like that. Things like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's an excellent one.
I haven't
Yeah.
seen that. That
No,
sounds great.
no.
It, yeah,
We gotta watch
it
that
was
one.
kind of
Yeah.
like it was for a long time. It wasn't available, like on DVD. But now I think it's out, officially, like on DVD or Blu-ray.
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the Rituals. Okay, there's one.
It's a good one.
Rituals is a good one. We talked about at Monsterpalooza, Evil Spirits.
Evil
yeah, and that one.
Spirits.
That's one I was not aware of. 1990.
Yeah, it's got Karen Black in it, Michael Berryman.
Wow.
And it's funny because Michael Berryman is just off the freaking wall in this movie.
Really?
He goes all out in this movie. It's set in a boarding house that Karen Black runs, and she murders these people that are staying in the house, and they're all nuts. They're all oddballs.
This is before Yelp.
Yeah.
All right.
And Michael Berryman is an author staying in the house, and he is just out there, incredibly weird, and it is great. It is so great, and one of the things that really sticks out about it is that there is a character that survives because he is drunk.
Oh, great.
Perfect.
That's awesome.
I'm not sure that's a good teaching moment, but
Well,
It could be. It could be.
well, and for listeners who are not familiar, Michael Berryman.
alcohol?
No, Michael.
I think I survived because I'm drunk.
see? Works for James.
Well, then, what do I know?
But it worked on Friday the 13th Part 2 as well.
That's true. That's
how about
true.
hey, you guys ever hear of the movie called Grabbers?
Yes, that's a great film. That's
Yeah.
it's not a slasher, but it's
No.
It's a creature movie.
Yeah.
But these creatures are attacking this
in
Irish
Ireland. Yeah.
island, and they don't like it when you're drunk. So, of course, everybody
Oh, my
on the
God.
island
Yeah,
gets
they'll
drunk.
spit you out.
I
if
gotta
they-
watch this.
Yeah,
one.
Yeah,
I
it's-
gotta
that's a
watch
fun
this
And
one.
it's fun. It's purposely humorous,
Right.
but they handle it well.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to watch that one.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a couple others. Where's some other titles?
One of the ones, it's a little bit more well known, but I have to say it really sticks out, and that's Hell Night.
Hell Night.
That's a fun one.
Yeah,
Linda
that is a good
Blair.
one.
Hell Night with
Peter
Linda
Barton.
Blair. Yep.
Yeah,
And
and that's a little more slicker, but it's still good.
What's the date on that one? Hell Night.
81, and it was filmed, and I actually went there recently. It was it was in Redlands. It was the historic mansion there in
Yeah,
Redlands.
the setting's great.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it has an incredible setting to it.
Yeah, that's cool.
I would like your opinion on a sequel. I sing its praises, and I feel that most people don't get this movie, and that would be Jason 10, or sometimes known as Jason X.
Yeah, Matt has gone off on this one.
Jason.
Not
A lot.
my favorite. Not my
Really?
favorite.
Really? See,
It's
I thought because
not as bad as Leprechaun in Space, but
Well, okay, and for listeners who don't remember, Jason 10 is Jason in
he is in space.
space.
And there's
Yeah.
a suspended animation
Yeah.
thing that happens with him. He winds up in the future, and he's on a spaceship, and he's wreaking havoc
Yeah.
on the spaceship.
I
Now,
do
what
like that
people
movie.
get wrong about this movie is that it is a satire.
True.
It's a satire.
Oh.
And being a satire, it works really well. And there's a lot of ridiculous, crazy shit. There's a female android who's like this ass kicker.
Oh, yeah.
And Jason is like flying through the void.
Super Jason.
Right.
It
He
is-
becomes like a Terminator.
He becomes
Jason.
like a Terminator. It's
Yeah.
so
I do enjoy
much fun. And just for that one scene on their holodeck,
Yes.
Oh God. Yeah, I know exactly.
He
what you're
goes back
talking
to
about.
it's like at the campsite again. With
They go
two
back to Crystal
hot
Lake.
naked chicks.
and so they're programming all this stuff into the holodeck to distract Jason.
Right.
Right.
So there are these two girls that are like, "Hi, Jason. We're very young and we want to have a lot of sex. So maybe you should kill us." Yeah.
See, what I need to do is before I go see these movies, I need to ask you, Matt, is it a satire? And you go, yes, Larry, it is. So I
Yeah.
go in with a.
But there are some movies that have a satiric element to them,
Sure.
but are also straight horror films. And I would say, like, American Werewolf in London. is
Right,
that.
right. There's one I think I talked with you briefly at Monster Palooza about, and I kind of like this one. It's not as well known. Terror on Tour.
Terror
Oh
on
yeah,
Tour.
yeah. Where they're basically like kiss,
Right.
And
I like the premise of it.
their groupies start getting murdered.
Yeah, and like the band performs like kind of violent act, like simulated violent acts on stage while they're performing.
Okay.
Oh.
and so,
that sounds
This
good.
sounds like
And
this.
so they
Sounds up my alley.
they're
Yeah.
like frowned upon by the the public. but
Alice
the-
Cooper.
Yeah, but then like the
frowned upon.
groupies and the managers around them start getting killed by a serial killer.
It's frowned upon
Yeah.
by the parents.
But-
Yeah,
yes,
yes.
yes.
Now,
Well,
what's the date on this one though?
That was like also that was like
1980.
1980.
Now,
yeah.
have you
Terror
seen?
on Tour.
Well, there's actually a whole category that I devoted to in the book on this.
rock and roll slashers?
Yes.
Go, man, go.
And it has Blood Tracks in it.
What's Blood
Blood
Tracks?
Tracks. I don't know that
Blood
one.
Tracks is a Swedish movie, and it's a hair metal band that is filming a music video up at this lodge in the snow.
Oh man.
And they start getting murdered by this group of cannibals. It's like The Hills Have Eyes.
Oh
in
my
the
gosh.
snow
Oh
that
with
sounds
hair metal.
awesome.
Wait, okay, what's this one again?
Blood Tracks.
Blood Tracks.
Blood Tracks.
TRAX.
I'm there.
Tracks.
Right.
Okay, well, I wasn't sure.
You thought
gotta
you were
find
going
that.
with the kids.
I
kind of
was,
spelling,
like,
yeah.
hey, let's do the X thing.
Okay.
So that I wanted to know for listeners.
The other one that's really interesting in that category is Rocktober Blood.
I've heard of that one. I've not seen that one either. Yeah.
One of the best soundtracks ever.
What's that?
Wow.
It's another one of the hair metal slasher movies.
Okay.
And it's where this singer for this band, he apparently goes on this killing spree, and they end up catching him, and then they execute him. But then the girl who was the co-singer in the band, she takes over, and this guy comes back from the dead and
Wow.
is after her. And what's really interesting about it is that the last part of the movie is a live concert where he kidnaps her and he comes out on stage wearing a mask, and he is killing people on the stage while he's performing, and people think it's part of the show.
So this is called Rocktober Blood.
Rocktober Blood.
Awesome.
What's the date on this one?
Oh,
I believe 81,
84?
82.
So is this an easy one to
Man.
find, guys, or is this?
I'm going to find all these.
Yeah, yeah.
I love the rock. Any sort of rock and roll connection I always enjoy. But do you know of there's a more modern film called Green Room. Do you know that one? With Patrick Stewart?
I love the Green Room.
Green Room's great.
No, what is?
The Green
I thought it
Room.
was a TV series.
No. It's
it's a movie?
The Green Room, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't call it a slasher, but it is really
Yeah, it's
good.
not a slasher.
Along the same lines, there's another movie that I highly recommend, and that's the Belko Experiment.
Oh, that
I
came out.
heard of
That's
this,
recent.
yeah.
That was recent, wasn't it?
It's and it's like the Office meets Battle Royale.
Okay, so what's the synopsis for this one?
Basically, it's a bunch of office workers, and they all get locked in this building, and there's a voice on the intercom that says that if you don't kill 2 people within this time limit, we're going to kill 4.
Oh,
And-
John C. McGinley's in it.
Yes. And eventually it gets worse and worse and worse.
Is it satirical or is it done straight?
Elements.
I
maybe?
would say it's a pretty brutal movie, actually, so I
Okay.
think it's pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So
Have you
this
seen
is-
Exam? You know that one? British film called Exam.
I've seen Final Exam, but I haven't seen Exam.
Exam is where all these people are taking this test for a position in this company, but you're never really told what that position is. And so the exam gets more and more extreme as it goes along. And ultimately, people are weeded out. And,
Interesting.
But it's really cool, and it's a good kind of psychological film.
Right.
But Green Room.
Oh, I love
What is the
Green Room.
premise of
The
that?
Green Room is
The Green Room.
The Green Room. So there is
Patrick
this.
Stewart's a Nazi.
He's a Nazi. No. Yes. And there's this band this up and coming band, and they're looking for gigs, and they get this gig that turns out to be at this white supremacist rally,
Right.
and they don't realize it till they're there.
Right.
And they're kind of they're listening to the lyrics of the other bands. They're like, oh, I got a bad feeling about this.
Something's off
Yeah.
here.
Huh.
And then a murder is committed at this concert, and they witness it. And so now the rest of the movie is Patrick Stewart and his white supremacist buddies are after this band, and
Oh,
they're
wow.
tracking them down.
Okay.
Is this before or after Star Trek Next
This
Generation?
is
way
recent.
after.
This is like
Oh,
a couple
this,
years
this
ago.
is
2 years
recent.
ago.
This is recent.
Recent, yeah.
Oh,
But it's
Cool.
it's a good time.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, that
I don't know. What do you? What,
you know, Captain Picard. Up
he's an
there.
actor. You know
he's
that
not
was
allowed
a
to do
role
other
he
things
played.
other than
He,
Patrick
he
Stewart.
doesn't wake
No,
up and
he-
get an Earl Grey.
No, he can. It's okay.
He can, yes, but
He
he,
has your
doesn't
appro-
because
he has
he's
your
Patrick
permission.
Stewart.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That sounds
Lord.
That sounds awesome.
You know, you make it sound like, oh, I don't like slasher films. I'd like you to know
You don't
I-
like actors.
No, I do like actors. I was an actor in my own little horror film. You know,
Okay.
a slasher film.
Go, let's
Okay, go.
tell us about this,
Okay,
Larry.
so there's 2 that I did, and the one is
Okay.
called "He Thirsts for Blood."
This is like
That's a good
in
title.
film school.
Well, no, it's not in film school. This is way
Before
before
that.
film
Like
school.
Super 8?
Yeah, and Super 8, and I was the bloody mass murderer.
So you were the
guy.
murderer?
I was. I murdered my
okay.
he
murdered
He
your
was
brother.
a hobo. Well, hobo.
Oh, those hobos.
No, it wasn't. He was.
We call them homeless now, but
I prefer raving derelicts.
So it's like my character's escaped from an insane asylum and he goes on this killing spree
Sure.
kind of a thing.
how long of a spree?
Well, it's
How many victims?
Well, in the film, it's really only one.
All right,
But
well, that's not
but
quite a
but-
spree,
But he's look.
planning on more.
I had to stab my brother with a knife, and we
That must have felt good, right?
no because I wanted to make sure he wasn't hurt. And so what we actually did is we. Under his shirt, we put a bunch of styrofoam, like a big styrofoam thing, and we tried to put a little blood pack in the center, and I was
Sure.
supposed to stab it, and I didn't quite
With a real knife?
With a real knife. It wasn't really the safest thing to do.
How old were you?
I
That
was
could
about.
have ended horribly.
I was about yes, but what we did do is I did get him to spit out red paint, which was kind of cool.
Oh,
I
that's
feel
cool.
bad about it
Wait a
now.
minute. Red paint?
You put red paint in his mouth?
Yeah, I mean, this was before my. Yeah, we brought a bunch
that could
of
have been
red.
worse than the knife.
You're worse than Corman.
Hey, he did it.
That's
and
terrific. I
hey,
love this
kudos
story.
to my younger brother who put the red paint
Who's
in his
still
mouth.
alive.
He is still alive. He's doing fine. And but
You can only see out of one eye.
no, but we'll show the film eventually. But my classic.
Oh, here we go.
My big claim to fame is Bon Appetit. Oh. And this is a scene. This is
Bon
appetit?
Bon Appetit.
Nice.
French. Hello.
But not bone.
No. But this is
That's the
you.
porn
You would
version.
love this. You would love it. You know why? It's because it has to do with brothers and they're arguing. And this one brother gets so angry, he yells at this other brother, and he starts to walk away. And this one brother's so upset, he goes to the kitchen and takes out a knife and stabs the other brother, just stabs him. He goes, ah, God. And he falls down, and then the older brother comes in, hey, what are you doing? And pulls the brother with the knife off and leans over the other brother, but then he's stabbed, in the chest, and he pulls out the knife, and he's spitting out blood, but then, so the older brother's lying there dead, and the brother with the knife picks up the younger one and puts him on the table. And he's got
Not
blood.
the table?
Yes, the kitchen table, the dining room table, where my parents and my brothers and sisters all had dinner. But he throws him on the table and he's riling there. Oh God! And then the younger brother goes and to this drawer, pulls out a giant spoon, and goes to the brother on the table and holds his head, digs the spoon into his eye, pulls out the eyeball, and eats it.
That's pretty
the
good.
film.
That's pretty good.
What do you think about
All
that?
right. I kind of want to see this now.
Yeah, well, Matt and I we're gonna try to fix it so we can show this
Yes,
eventually.
yes, we will.
Because it's a classic.
But Ronnie, I want to know, have you seen or know of a film where the premise is you've got some kids and they're making a Super 8 film and one of the kids puts styrofoam in the other kid's chest and a blood packet and stabs him with it thinking it'll just be an effect, but then actually kills him, and then that's like the backstory. And then so,
That would be good.
28 years later, because I like your real life story, because that's a good jumping off point for a slasher movie.
true.
Actually,
Isn't
yes.
Super
Yes.
hate.
Super hate.
Super hate.
Sean, you're a genius.
I
love
like
that.
this.
That's good, huh?
I like this.
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
all right, guys. So we're gonna work
right,
on this,
we're-
okay?
we all have to
Listeners
try
can't
to get
take this.
funding.
You can't take this idea. This is ours. We're gonna work on this.
Definitely.
like it.
But just really quickly, what's cool? Because it's my claim to fame. I showed the film in high school. I showed Bon Appetit in high school as part of a speech. No, the point was I was showing them. Okay, everybody's laughing. Look, the point
it's
was
funny.
no. Because the point is, I was showing them how to make Hollywood blood. So I showed them how to make Hollywood blood, and then I showed the film where I had a lot of Hollywood blood. And at that moment, buddy, when the brother sticks the spoon in the guy's skull and pulls out the eye and eats it, the class flipped out. No one knew how I did it. and they literally the ooze and the grow. Oh my God! It flipped them out. And at that moment, I became Larry the filmmaker. Of course, Larry the horror, scary filmmaker. But and then well, it was that's where I became known.
Previous to
cool.
that was Scary Larry or
No.
Okay.
You know, I had girlfriends. Come on, hey.
No, I know. Hey, look, Manson had girlfriends.
James, did you have a point?
Well, I was going to kind of go in a different subject now. A few months ago, in October, in fact, Halloween, the new one, broke box office records.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Ronnie, I'm assuming you saw it.
Oh yeah, I saw it in the theater.
What'd you think?
I didn't mind it. I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting take.
Yeah.
I didn't like how they did the big FU to the rest of the series, but
Yeah, that was
it
interesting.
is what it is.
Yeah.
God, I didn't mind
think
that.
it was.
There were things
I liked it, but I didn't think it was fantastic. But I did not mind it. I thought there were some cool twists.
Gigantic logic flaws.
Well,
It's
what they
just-
did with
What?
the
Logic.
psychiatrist, the prison psychiatrist, was pretty unforgivable for me.
Stupid.
That completely lost it for
stupid.
me. I like that Haddonfield is now integrated, which was kind of a nice, we're updating, and I like that Laurie Strode has PTSD and what they did with it, but they didn't do nearly enough. That's the thing. That was a huge missed opportunity.
I'm not saying that the Rob Zombie Halloween is a great movie, but I will give it this. I will give it the fact that it tried to do something different. At least it's like, hey, let's explore, what made Michael Myers.
And then make them all into trailer trash.
Well,
Yeah, with every movie he makes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And I there are obvious flaws with that movie, but what I'm saying is that
The premise is good.
the premise is good. And the premise of this new one I thought was good too. The idea that now she's after the first Halloween movie, she's just this, she's like, oh, never again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right,
it's
right.
just the execution.
It's funny you bring that up, James. I enjoyed it more than you, and I actually forgot about a point that you one of the things that happened, and I remembered how angry I was at that moment. It's not a perfect film, but the funny thing is, I brought along my 13-year-old daughter, who she and we watched the original, and I felt, look, I'm not going to show you all the others because supposedly they didn't exist, which I had no problem with.
Yeah.
But
I had no
even
problem
my
with that.
13-year-old daughter had an issue with what you just brought up about
The psychiatrist?
the psychiatrist.
But it was kind of,
Unforgivable.
I mean, it's a far-fetched twist, but I wasn't expecting it. It was something, I don't know.
But the whole ending and the whole house, and I mean, I liked all that stuff.
I did like, I hate the freaking title, but Halloween H2O, Halloween 20.
That one I like.
And we actually
that I
have
think
one
is
of
good.
the
Robert
co-screenwriters on, and that one I liked because I did not like
Ronnie?
the Halloween 4 and 5, The Curse of Michael Myers, Return of Michael Myers. Those didn't really do much for me.
Here's something that I want to bring up, and I know that it is universally hated, and trust me, I hate it too. But I think it had a lot of potential, and that was Halloween Resurrection. It's a horrible movie.
Oh, that's the reality show one.
Yeah.
And they kill off Laurie Strode. Yeah.
But the beginning is gold, where he is stalking Laurie, and with the inmate who is obsessed with serial killers, and where Laurie ends up, well, spoiler alert, getting killed in that one.
Right.
But if they would have stuck to that, and that would have been their entire movie, and they stretched it out, that could have been an excellent movie.
Right. Right.
Well,
I agree.
I think this new one could have been. I mean, when I saw the credits, and it was a love letter to the first movie. The experience of when I was 13 watching that first movie, I'm like, this movie's pretty much made for me and my
Right.
generation. And I loved it up until a point where I realized it was not going to get any better. And in fact, it took a turn for the worse. And
Terrible.
Yeah, I just really disappointing. And I'm glad it was successful, and the franchise will continue, hopefully with better movies.
Right.
But man, disappointed.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, we've talked about, there's this new generation now. Where do you think the slasher genre is going to go from here? And this is 2019. Way back in 1978, the first Halloween, and look at all the permutations of slasher films and all the different types and styles. And where do you think it's going?
Well, it's always changing. and like with the introduction of what they call the torture porn, you know, like Hostel, Saw,
Right.
and those fall under the category of one of the evolutions
Yeah,
of the
I
slasher
agree.
film. And there are still some that come out that really surprised me. Like the Final Girls was amazing. It was very clever.
Really?
Yeah,
I
that's
gotta
a good
see it.
movie.
I haven't seen that
Yeah.
one. I gotta see that one.
And it manages to be a lot of things at once. It's a funny movie.
Yeah, it handles the humor well.
Yeah, it can be scary.
Yeah.
Plus, it can be really sad at times too. And it was just something that you hadn't seen, and that was really unique at the time. There's a few that come out every now and then, like
Wolf Creek.
I like part 2 better actually. Yeah. It takes on a most dangerous game territory.
I haven't seen Wolf Creek yet. I still
The first one?
No, I haven't seen it.
I can't believe
I
it.
know. I have to
Did you see the TV show?
There was a TV show.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, there's a TV
I
show.
haven't.
Is it good?
It's better than you would expect it to be. Let's just
okay.
say that.
Huh? I'll have to watch that.
Interesting.
Another one that came out that we were talking about earlier on the break was Girl House.
Yeah. What is that one?
That is a very innovative movie, and it's basically it deals with cam girls and a house full of them, and the killer is an obsessed fan who gets turned down by one of the girls.
Oh.
And
So is
he
it all
just-
done by the cams? Like it's all shot with the camcorders? I mean, with the
Kind of like the paranormal.
It's funny because the guy is he's like this technical genius. So he's able to hack into the system. So he could watch the girls through the cams, and he knows exactly where they are.
Okay.
And he could, it's really innovative.
What's the date on this one?
that's some more recent. one, right?
2015,
Okay.
2016.
Okay, right.
Okay.
One of the two.
That's cool.
All
I'll have to
right.
check that one out. I mean, I think we've only kind of still scratched the surface. I think.
Well,
But,
there's
yeah,
so
there's-
many films.
Yeah.
There's a
We-
lot more underrated
We've only
ones.
slashed the surface.
that's
Well, this gives us a perfect opportunity to have you back.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Ronnie, you have these 2 books that are out now. Where can we? Are they readily available?
And they're chocked full of
Yeah. Oh
my
tons
God.
of information.
Tomes.
It was funny. I actually had my first debut at Dark Delicacies here in Burbank.
Oh, nice. Yeah, we love that place.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember that the owner, Dell, said something about that he could use the book as a weapon. it's such a big
That
book.
should be
That's
the
a big
third
book.
one.
Yeah.
Series of knives.
Yes. But you can find it. It's readily available on Amazon right now.
Cool.
And the
It's,
titles of the books again?
Slash Dreams and Slash Dreams Part 2.
Slash
Cool.
Dreams and Slash Dreams Part 2.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
and-
getting them.
Yes. Yes.
And I'm actually working on a few more books right now.
cool.
Oh.
In the horror genre.
Actually, it's interesting.
Princesses?
That'll be down the road.
Happy endings to every film.
Yes. But I'm actually working on a few different ones on the side. It's one of them is based on my wrestling career. Stories from the road.
Nice.
Another one is about the history of Ozfest.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, want to read that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've already got a few interviews for it. So.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And the next one, and I was just pitched this idea the other day by my dad, and I want to do it. I want to go for it because my dad has been in the funeral business my entire life, and he just pitched this idea. He said that he wants to sit down with me and be interviewed and tell stories from his career.
Wow.
And I thought, yeah,
That could
that's
be cool.
perfect.
Yeah.
That's
That is
awesome.
perfect.
Yeah.
A lot of people would be into that one.
Yeah.
These are all 3 great ideas.
Yeah,
I
totally.
look forward to seeing these books from you.
Thank you.
I had a grandfather who saw UFOs and said they were so close that he could almost touch them.
Really?
And I always wanted to interview him, and then he died. So, it's to be able to chronicle a crazy but true story.
Right.
Because he's got to have your dad's got to have a million stories.
Some of the stories that he started telling me were insane.
Yeah.
So the lesson.
Anything like the movie Mortuary?
No, I don't think you've seen that one. But while we're on the subject, I do have to touch on this and give a little bit of a shout out that my grandpa, Clarence Graham, he wrote a book called Under the Samurai Sword.
Under the Samurai Sword.
Under the Samurai Sword. He just turned 99.
Wow.
No.
And he was a World War II veteran who spent 4 years in a POW camp in the Philippines.
No.
Yeah, and this book is all about his time in the POW camp.
Wow.
So if anybody's interested, Under the Samurai Sword.
Under
Wow,
the
that's
Samurai
amazing.
Sword.
Check that out too. I got a lot of reading to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Ronnie, thank you so much. This is
Yeah.
this has been awesome. This
has been
again,
great.
This is a great
A dream.
favorite subject
Seriously.
of ours, and you really truly have been the perfect guest for this subject. And
Thank you.
You've actually told us about some titles we don't know about. Which
Take
is
that,
always,
Sean Sheridan.
Always exactly.
In your face.
That's right.
In your slashed up face.
And I've got a lot more where that came
All
from.
right.
Oh, I just
All
want
right.
to raise
Music
my
to our
glass. Hey, thank you, Ronnie,
Yes,
for
thanks
being
for
with us.
Cheers.
Slasher.
Time for a listener shout out. Sean, I understand we have a very special shout out.
Oh,
this
we
week.
do. We do indeed. This shout out is going to one of our longtime and very devoted fans, listeners, Angela McNichols.
Angela McNichols!
We love you, Angela.
McNichols.
We love her.
Yeah.
She's been with us from the beginning.
That's true,
She's
yes.
the greatest.
Our very first couple episodes.
I know.
Yeah.
And Angela actually sent us a little gift recently.
What?
Oh.
Yes. And she sent a letter with it. I'm going to read it to you guys.
Okay.
Dear Matt, Sean, James.
Do it like her.
Yes. I don't know if I can do that.
it's okay.
Dear Matt, Sean, James, and of course, Larry. As you know,
My name was first.
As you know, I'm a diehard horror movie lover, and my favorite movie is The Exorcist.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can't think of a better way to share my love and passion with four great guys who have always been great to me. Please enjoy and have a toast on me so we can share one in person. Love you guys, and thank you so much for the podcast. Matt, thank you for the hard laughs due to the not-so-encouragement inspired by Larry.
What?
Sean, I love your giggle. Sorry, I'm not sure you would like it to refer to as that. It's fine.
No, it's a giggle.
Yeah, you giggled.
Giggles like a little
should-
child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true. But we love you, though.
Silent James. When you do speak, it always is followed with great facts.
See, we all agree that we love it when you speak, James.
Oh, thank you, Angela.
I love it.
Signed
if you speak
Angela
more.
McNichols. And so what she brought us is she says here, P.S. Pazuzu's Pedal is from Illuminated Brew Works, a microbrewery in Chicago. Enjoy from the corrupt Windy City. These are like tall cans of this beverage with like the flash face.
Yeah,
that
the
you see-
subliminal
the
face.
subliminal like ghost face that you see in The Exorcist on the cans.
It's frightening.
It's awesome.
But it is awesome.
Frighteningly delicious.
That's right.
What does
And
it
What does
say?
it say on the can?
It says, get possessed by the sinful pleasures of bitter chocolate, coffee, dark fruit,
Oh, dark fruit.
smoke, and herb in this homage to everyone's favorite Babylonian demon and his love affair with the bicycle.
Nice.
Pazuzu's pedals.
And I just want to let you know, like Angela, I brought my Pazuzu statuette.
Yes, he
To
did.
go next to the cans
Yes,
and take some
it's-
pictures. So it's a perfect little.
Let's just say it's very happy
Yes.
by looking at his
And he's
lower
erect.
half.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's standing erect.
Thank you so much, Angela. This is so awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
great.
Angela.
I mean,
Fits us perfectly.
when you got a drink that mixes The Exorcist and It's a Wonderful Life,
Right.
that's pretty amazing.
No,
Pretty awesome.
I agree with you. I can't wait. You know what? I actually have an issue, though, because the can is so cool. I don't want to open it.
I know.
I know.
I'm gonna
We'll have
have-
to do it at the right time.
I'm gonna
Now
have
we
to-
have to save it for a special occasion.
Or
Yes.
I'm going to have to get another one that I can open and have, and I can always keep.
You hear
this
that,
one.
Angela? We're never satisfied.
No, Angela.
Keep sending more boobs.
No, Angela. Thank you. We love you. I'm so satisfied. I just have to track this down.
He's going to keep it mint and can.
That's right. Right.
What if we just open one and then we'll just like the 4 straws?
There you go.
We could do that. Yeah.
Wait,
That'd be
whoa. Can't you pour it in 4 little glasses?
Or we could do that.
And
too.
then we can each have our own
and
little
then
glass?
the empty can can be the one we
I
keep
think
in our
it'd be
studio.
I think it'd be way cuter with 4 straws. Come
Well,
on.
It's like a Pazuzu bowl.
See, but that's a little, I mean,
You got
we're all
so many issues.
No, it's not an issue. It's just let's pour it in 4 little glasses. Hey, we toast. We all have our individual
You're
glasses.
no fun at all.
Instead of sticking a straw in a can, it's so like.
You're Mr. Straw.
Yeah, I know.
love straw.
I love straw, but I'm not going to share.
You don't want my backwash. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I just don't think we should
Look,
share. Our straws should go in the same can, because that means all 4 of us are going to be really close to the.
And by the way,
can.
it says on the can, "Enjoy with people you trust."
It does.
And you know what?
It really does.
And you know what? That explains a lot.
Not for use with straws. Okay. All right. You convinced me.
Angela, thanks
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
You
such
are
a
the
great
best.
gift. We really, really love you.
Yes,
Yeah.
truly.
And we also want to thank all of our listeners who have supported our new Blu-ray commentary, Vengeance of She by Screen
right.
Factory.
Yes.
Vengeance of She.
And have not only ordered it, but have posted it on social media. We really appreciate
Yes.
that.
We
Totally.
make the film better.
Also
right.
want to announce that we have an upcoming new Blu-ray commentary.
What?
We did another one, Matt.
What? Yeah.
I guess you forgot.
Demon booze.
the classic Alligator People.
Alligator people.
Lon Chaney Jr.
Great
Not really.
50s
That's
monster
a
flick.
That is a good one.
Yep.
It was awesome, and that is coming out May 28th.
All right.
May 28th.
Pre-order now.
Mark your calendars.
Pre-order it now. Also want to remind our listeners that you can find us on Facebook at Monster Party TV. YouTube is also Monster Party TV. Twitter at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. And hey, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please take a moment and write a review. We would love to hear from you, and chances are very good we'll read the review on the air.
That's true.
Chances no. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
And to quote Ronnie Angel, stay slashy.
No, I don't know if we're going to have a stoned episode. No.
Yes.
Oh,
We should
oh,
certainly
a
do a
drug.
You mean each person is on a different drug and then try to find out what it is?
And
That is a great
you know what my
idea.
drug
Yes,
is?
yes.
My drug will
What's
be
my drug?
happiness, Sean. I'll be on
Everyone knows that you do not do that drug.
the happiness drug. Actually, you bring up a very good point. That is true.
Yeah.
I don't.
We'll have
do
to
that.
force feed that one to you.
I'll
see,
be kicking and screaming.
Luckily, most drugs, if taken correctly, can be happiness drugs.
Well, you know what?
That is
okay,
very true.
I thought, what if I took like
Yeah.
I was going to say a leave, but what about something like, what about, like Vivarin, hey, a little caffeine pitch,
Well,
know?
that would
no more
work.
caffeine.
That would work,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of. It's kind of like speed, but why fuck around with that? Just go right to speed.
Or
Haven't you ever
just
wanted
go
to?
all out.
I like being able to get my stuff over the counter.
I can get it for you. Okay.
No, I don't know
Don't you-
where you're gonna what on the corner of
You have ways.
with
You have
with
ways.
I live in Van Nuys.
Well-
Come on.
No, you see, now you're giving Van Nuys a bad rap. That could happen
Why is
in
that a
any
bad rap?
because that could happen to any city, any big metropolitan, even in
Van
Metropolis.
Nuys gets things done.
Yeah, you can get a lot over the counter now. Everything's legal.
On that note, and then so I'm going to say, get slashed. Is that what he says in the book? What is it?
It's slashy.
Get slashy, right? Is that what it was?
I think so.
Yeah, get slashy or stay slashy.
Stay slashy.
Should we say his thing though?
Yeah.
I think it'd be funny.
Okay.
And
But
we,
it's
I
a-
could even quote him.
in the
That's
words
what I
of
would
Ronnie
say.
Angel in
And,
the-
and
yeah.
to quote Ronnie Angel.
And to quote
Slashy.
Ronnie Angel,
Stay slashy. Yeah.
stay slashy, my friends.
Yeah.
It's not my friends
To
though.
paraphrase,
Yeah.
If you're gonna do it,
I'll do it right.
You should do
I'll
it
do
right.
It right. Okay.
Pazuzu says.
Talk about demon booze. Okay.
Do you know, just really quickly, this was one of the most frightening moments
Yeah, I'm
in the
sure.
film
Yeah.
because it's like split second, and the first time I saw it, I mean, that really freaked me out.
I don't
It
think
was
the first
supposed
time
to.
I saw it, I caught it.
Really?
But later I caught it.
I caught it.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
caught it,
good.
my friend.
Eileen Dietz.
Who like has been at conventions.
She goes to conventions,
It's
yeah.
pretty amazing.
You know what? We're gonna have to talk to her because I've seen her at conventions before.
That's right.
The ghost face.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is called the Ghost Face.
What's great about that image is that, like, just not having it be subliminal is just looking at it right now. It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
It,
Yeah,
you know,
really
it is, and
It's
it's
so simple and basic, but it's
Yeah.
really scary.
it's on a can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's like boo.
That's right.
All right.
But I'm sure it's delicious.
It actually does sound
It
really
does.
good.
It really sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, here we go.
Drink like the devil. Okay, sorry.
Keep America strong, because it's for some reason the lead-in is vexing me here. Keep America strong. Do
And to quote,
keep America, and to quote Ronnie Angel, stay slashy. Okay. And to
or
quote
stay
Ronnie-
slashy.
Okay, stop it.
Stay slashy.
No, stop it.
Well, I'm just trying to think of different ways that you could do.
Thank you. I've
Stay-
never would have thought of that.
Stay slashy.
Okay.
You know, like it can be like terror. You know, stay slashy.
Okay.
You don't like that one?
Cut to Dawn.
Did you
we-
just rub its back?
Yeah. Got a little spine there.
That's why.
Sean Sheridan
Oh my God.
is rubbing
Yeah, I
the
worship
devil's
Pazuzu.
back.
Yeah. If
Not
we're gonna-
the
if we're gonna-
devil,
if we're gonna-
Pazuzu.
If I'm going
Pazuzu.
to be religious, I'm going to be religious with Pazuzu.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's weird. You're rubbing
Oh my God,
a
his-
cement statue, Sean. It's
This is
bizarre.
freaky.
Okay, can I
His
just
dick got bigger.
can I just tell you one
Mine
thing?
or Pazuzu?
Yours couldn't get any bigger.
No, just to let you know, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice.
Okay.
If you keep rubbing the back of the spine, what's going to happen is the oil on your
yes,
hands
true.
is going to
That's
get
true.
on them,
You're
and
right.
it's going
You're
to.
right.
Oh my God.
I'm just saying.
That's
Wow.
It's gonna take like 100 years.
No. How often does
But luckily,
he,
it's made to look already like an old
if he
stone
rubs it
sculpture.
every
He's
day-
antiquing it.
if he guys, you don't want to do that. You don't want to.
You don't know
it.
what he does to that thing
I
when we're not
shouldn't,
around.
I shouldn't rub. I shouldn't point at it. I shouldn't even look at it.
Oil is the least
No.
of that thing's worries.
No, you can look at it and admire. I'm just don't
Okay.
smother it every day.
Okay, I'll stop licking it.
Yeah.
Did you
We
lick
should
it?
make a
No,
chocolate
no.
one.
Yeah, chocolate Pazuzu.
Okay, now see, now that's different. That would be kind of neat. A little
it would
chocolate
be.
Pazuzu. That'd
Yeah.
be kind of cool. Here, eat the devil. Hey,
Look,
he's
it's cherry sauce inside.
Or maybe a peach.
I would actually. Oh,
Pazuzu
God,
peeps.
you ruined it.
peach.
You ruined it. Cherry sauce.
Oh yeah,
Marshmallow.
a
Do you like
Pazuzu
the-
peeps.
do you- Wait a minute. Hold on. Do you like those cherry things?
Yeah.
Every
Yeah.
once in a while,
With
like,
the
I
glaze?
couldn't
Yeah.
eat like a ton of them, but like
But
once
there's-
in a while,
There's a
you
real
know,
cherry
yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
I
not.
mean,
Right.
James?
Yeah, I can have one.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
So imagine,
It's not a cordial,
What
right?
about, but
I mean, there are no Twix, but
that that glaze, that goo.
yeah,
syrup.
that's
It's pure. It's full of sugary
pure
cherry,
artificial
cherry
sugar.
goodness.
It's good for you.
Do you ever have those little chocolates they sell at the duty-free shops that have liquor in them?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those aren't bad.
Yeah.
No. Put liquor in it. Would that
Well,
change?
now that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah.
A Pazuzu decanter.
There you go.
But it's not
Yeah.
a decanter. He's a little chocolate
Or wait a-
Pazuzu and
oh,
it
no,
has
wait a
like
minute. I got it.
Bailey's in it. Maybe it's got
No,
Bailey's.
no.
Maybe.
Deviled egg.
With like
Okay.
little horns on it.
You are disgusting. And let me. So a chocolate Pazuzu with a deviled egg inside. Do you know how repulsive that is?
You need to smoke more pot.
No. First of all, you're going to have a problem.
You know, nowadays when they bacon, like bacon and strawberries, like they put, mix the sweet and the, I mean, that's a big thing now.
Okay. So let's
Crazy enough to work.
Yeah, you know what? They couldn't do a hard-boiled egg inside the chocolate because it would get disgusting. It would turn into something foul.
You got to get it fresh.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you can't do for.
It's
You know
like,
what you have to do?
Refrigerate it.
No, what you'd have to do.
How about deviled ham? A little better, right?
guys?
never had
Ham?
I'm not a big ham fan.
No, either put the sugary.
I'll take ham over a fucking chocolate cherry glazing.
I love the.
What
cherry
about Crunchy Frog? That's delicious. I love Crunchy Frog.
Spring surprise.
You mean
Right,
like
spring
wait?
surprise.
You mean like little Rice Krispies in it?
No, it's a
No,
Monty, Monty Python reference.
thing.
I
Never
know.
mind.
I'm not an idiot. I know what Crunchy
Wow,
Frog
but you
is.
sounded like it just now.
No. I wanted to clarify his Crunchy
Okay.
Frog
All right.
Okay.
thing.
All right, let's end this.
What were we talking
frickin'
about?
Thing.
Okay.
We're gonna end it. Okay, I'm gonna start from the top, and to quote Ronnie Angel,
On that note,
"Stay slashy."
yes, and you could say
Stop it!
I realize you
Throw me off my game here.
Okay, I'm quiet.
Okay.
Ready to go.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
And to quote Ronnie Angel, "Stay slashy." Right?
Yeah,
that's
good.
Stay slashy. Oh, that I like the little.
I do like that. I think you should do that again. Someone should do
just
that.
do. I can.
Someone
I'll
should
cut
do
that into it. Just do
Okay.
the sound, right? Wait a minute. Can you do the first part and then you do the second
Oh
part?
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because that's kind of how it does, right? Yeah.
Right. It's like the stereo.
Wait, what's the second part?
Oh, maybe not.
Yeah, I don't do it that good.
It's
I
a little
do.
faster.
I'll now do the.
Okay.
Go.
Okay. I think you need to be a little faster. Just.
No.
Maybe you should do it.
No. It's.
Well, there you go.
That's it right
Okay.
there. Yeah.
All right. So look, you have some options.
Fix it in post.
I do.
Hey.